Hey, what time is it? It's Podblast time. Happy weekend, everybody. Yes, it's time for the Nostalgic Podblast. A little bit of a delayed start today. Watching some sports, some big games that are going on right now. But I'm happy to be here with you, and thanks for joining. Got a good one for you today. Going to be discussing the worst and best final episodes of our favorite TV shows of all time. Before I get started with the topic at hand, I have to give a shout out and a big thanks to Barry King and Alan Sanders, the host of BK on the Air, which you can find everywhere. It's a great nostalgia show. They're my nostalgic cousins, and they had me as an in-studio guest over in Cartersville, Georgia at their fabulous studios. And it's really remarkable, their setup there. It's right near like the heart of Cartersville, Georgia. And there's people walking by. There's a big window and it's ground level, and people are waving at us while we're on the air. And there's a great farmer's market going on across the way. It's great people watching while you're doing a live radio show. I mean, they have it good, these guys. And they have a great show, and I really enjoy it. So I hope to be back with them as a guest, maybe in a month or so, or whenever they'll be so kind as to invite me back. It'd be a lot of fun, but I love that staff. I met some of the people that work there at the station, and they have a very smooth operation. And that radio station's been around since 1946, WBHF, AM and FM. But please check out BK on the Air. It's a fantastic show, and they're on Saturdays from 10 a.m. until noon, and they're also with us on fistfulofradio.com. Their show airs at 8:30 in the morning, the replay of it on fistfulofradio.com until 10, 90-minute time slot, and then they're on after us on Fistful of Radio. The Nostalgic Podblast, by the way, is on Fistful of Radio from 2 until 5, Saturdays and Sundays, and then after us is BK on the Air. There are bookends, nostalgic bookends. So the nostalgic nerds are on Fistful in the afternoon, Saturday and Sunday, and we're grateful for that. Now, as you can see, those that are watching, by the way, on Facebook Live or on YouTube, I have some TV guides behind me of some series that I loved and that we're going to talk about today. I have a lot of clips. This is going to be a fun show. So, let's begin. I want to talk about a show that Al Hardy and I, my co-host. By the way, Al, I'm hoping we're going to be back in Al's studio next week. He's got some technical things to work out, some upgrades he's doing. And next Sunday, we're going to have our 2-year anniversary Nostalgic Podblast. By the way, I'm Chance Bartels, co-creator of the Nostalgic Podblast. And Al Hardy and I created the show 2 years ago. And I met Al working at Cumulus Media for 6 Atlanta area radio stations. And they had like on my first day years ago, like an orientation where you got to go to different departments and see other people's roles in media at that operation. And so I was paired with Al Hardy briefly. He was one of my stops on my first or second day there. And what he would do is put together the post-production of shows that would air on the weekend. And he'd record shows during the week for the weekend, typically paid programs like financial shows. And there was like a divorce show with divorce lawyers and things like that, because Georgia has some really strict divorce laws. It always benefits the woman. It just does. I mean, this is according to these attorneys, and it's what they say, and they're the experts, and they're in court all the time fighting these battles. But we're having a happy show today. We don't want to talk about anything negative like that, do we? Not really. I don't. Now, getting back to the topic, I'm going to mention a couple shows that we've already covered, but I know you haven't heard every show. I mean, you've got other options out there. There's a lot of great podcasts. Adam Carolla, some big-time shows you could listen to in the podcast realm. But back in Podblast 4, Al Hardy and I talked about 2 notable Quinn Martin shows. One was The Invaders, and then The Fugitive. And of course, The Fugitive was a show that started in September 1963 on the ABC television network. And it was a show based in reality on the Sam Shepard case. This was a real doctor accused of murdering his wife, and he proclaimed his innocence. But unlike reality, the twist in the dramatic television version was that Dr. Richard Kimball, who also was accused of murdering his wife Helen Kimball, he's on the run. He escapes in a train wreck. And most people have probably seen the Harrison Ford movie, The Fugitive, released in 1993. And in that film, I liked it a lot. They changed it up a little bit, but as you know, whether you saw the movie or the old show, the real culprit is a guy named the One-Armed Man, Fred Johnson. And he was just a petty thief and a burglar. And Helen Kimball startled him while he was ransacking their house. By the way, I had a dream last night that my home was ransacked. God, I hope it's not a premonition. Anyway, she startles him, and he grabs the base of a lamp and bam, hits her right in the head, and she's DRT, dead right there. So Dr. Kimball, who'd been out on a drive, he'd had a big argument with his wife. And in the trial scenes, neighbors are like, I heard them arguing. And she was kind of a witch, Helen Kimball. She was arguing against adoption. She had a procedure that rendered her character unable to have children. And Dr. Richard Kimball was a pediatrician. He loved kids. He wanted to start a family, wanted to adopt. So she was drinking martinis heavily while they fought. And then he storms off to take a drive to cool off. And that's when the murder happens. And when he comes home, he sees a one-armed man running from the vicinity of his home. You heard that in every opening. They had William Conrad narrating it and giving a recap of that premise. So getting back to the final episode angle, on August 29th, 1967, the final episode of The Fugitive aired. And that was towards the beginning of what would have been a fifth season of The Fugitive. Fugitive lasted 4 years. And the network didn't want to produce a final episode. And that show was so highly rated, and the audience was really invested in the story. And Kimball came close to catching the one-armed man several times. And in the beginning, they'd feature the one-armed man in one episode per season. But then when the show went to color in the fourth season, they had several scripts that involved Fred Johnson, the one-armed man. One was called The Ivy Maze, where Kimball's working at a college campus, an Ivy League school, hence the title, The Ivy Maze. And the one-armed man is working just as a gardener. And they did like sleep deprivation exercises on Johnson because one of the professors was buddies with Kimball and contacted him and says, my God, this guy's working here. I think it's your guy. And so the premise was they're going to pay him extra money if he doesn't sleep. And they're hoping he'd get delirious, which he did, and then confess on tape. And he winds up confessing. But then something goes wrong and he destroys the tape. The one-armed man does. Anyway, so on August 29th, 1967, the final episode of The Fugitive aired. It broke all sorts of ratings records. It was a huge ratings success, and it held the record for the highest-rated television show until November 21st, 1980, when the infamous Who Shot JR episode of Dallas aired that resolved the mystery of who shot JR. Spoiler alert, it was Kristen, Sue Ellen's younger pretty sister, played by Mary Crosby. And that was a season 4 episode that aired November 21st, which is my birthday, November 21st, 1980. And that broke the record. And then after that, and that wasn't a final episode. We are going to talk about the final regular Dallas episode later in today's Podblast. But that was just a season 4 episode that resolved it. But then the final MASH aired in 1983, and that broke the record that Dallas held. And it was all good for CBS because it was the same network. Dallas and MASH was the same network. We're going to get to MASH later. But staying with The Fugitive, that final episode was awesome. And a funny little anecdote. I'm going to play a clip of the final epilogue of The Last Fugitive. But an interesting epilogue was in the 80s, Star Trek was released on VHS in 1985, and it was a big success. But they really charged a lot. It was $14.95 for just one episode of Star Trek on video. And I saw it at a record store, Turtles Records and Tapes, first in a big display, and I loved them and bought them up. But how this relates to Fugitive is a smaller home video operation called Good Times Home Video released the Fugitive final 2-part episode called The Judgment, parts 1 and 2, in 1986 on VHS. But they had the Canadian version. In Canada, the final episode did not air August 29th, 1967. It aired a week later on September 5th, 67. So the narration by William Conrad says, Tuesday, September 5th, the day the running stopped. But in the real episode, it said August 29th, 1967, the day the running stopped. I'll play both of those lines just in a second here. But I have that on film, actually, with the original commercials from the original air date, parts 1 and 2 of The Judgment. Pretty valuable on film, and it's got ads for Salem cigarettes. And in one of the ads, it has Deanna Lund. A lot of people in the Pod Blast will recognize that name. She was once involved with Larry King before he passed romantically, but she was the redhead from Land of the Giants. And this was right before Land of the Giants started production, Irwin Allen's Land of the Giants on ABC, when she cut this commercial, which aired in August 29th, 1967, on the very last episode. And she goes, it says, what is the jingle? It's like the cool touch. No, just the right touch. You get the right touch of menthol. I should play that clip. And she goes, he goes, does it have the right touch? He goes, just the right touch. And she just was a really pretty redhead, kind of like a Tina Louise type. But let's play a little bit. Before I play the last epilogue, I want to play an interview with Leonard Goldberg, who you may recognize from the end credits of a lot of shows like Charlie's Angels. He worked with Aaron Spelling, and he also worked on The Fugitive. And he's going to talk in this interview real quick about how the network didn't want to produce a final episode. So let me pull this clip up for you. And he was a really, really good producer, and he produced a lot of good material. So here's Leonard Goldberg talking about The Judgment Part 2, the very last episode of The Fugitive.
The Fugitive was a gigantic hit series for ABC, and had been on the air for many years as a huge hit with David Janssen. And the 66-67 season was its last year. I think we'd been on the air for 5 years. And the series was going to end in May and go off the air. And I went to the president of the network and I said to him, we can't just end the series with another episode. People have been watching this series for 5 years, chasing the one-armed man. We have to resolve the series. And he and the other senior members of management looked at me like I was crazy. They said, what are you talking about? It's over. I said, yeah, but it's not over. They've invested in this for 5 years. We've got to come to a conclusion. No, you don't. You mean the people actually, I said, yeah, they watch and they care. They actually believe, even though they know it's fiction, but once passing over fiction, they're into that character and his story. No. What do you want to do? I said, we want to make one more episode and perhaps run it just before the start of the new season that will conclude The Fugitive. Oh, no, we don't want to conclude. It's not important. I said, yes, it is. Nobody cares. Yes, they do. I went to a few advertisers and got them to put up the extra money for one more original episode. I think it was Bristol Myers. And begrudgingly, they said, well, as long as you got it paid for, we'll let you put it on the air. It went on the air in August and got a 46 rating and a 72 share.
That's huge.
That's what it got. I don't think anybody gets a 46 share anymore, let alone a 46 rating. 46% of all the television homes tuned in to that 1 hour. And what it illustrated to me was the very people who made television, who controlled television, saw the numbers and they knew that, 20 million people were watching, but they were just watching. They were just sitting there while their eyeballs went in and out, but they didn't care. And I thought, what a sad commentary on our business that the people in charge don't believe the power of their own medium. And that always stayed with me, and that you realize the people who tune in actually do care about these characters, and they want to see what happens at the end. It was, again, an early but powerful lesson to me. Plus, in the middle of the summer, to get a 72 share, we didn't advertise it particularly heavily. We just announced it was on the air.
So clearly a strong sense of investment from the loyal viewers.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But yet they thought that for 5 years they just watched because their sets happened to be tuned to Channel 7 that night. Anything would have sufficed.
There you have it. Leonard Goldberg. Now here's Here is the first epilogue I want to play of the final one. It's brief. This is not a long clip, but here's the American version of the epilogue. This is from my YouTube channel, by the way. My YouTube channel is Chance Acting Demo. And I actually recorded this from 1993. NBC aired in prime time the first episode of The Fugitive, and then the next night, the last two-part finale to promote the movie, the Harrison Ford movie in 1993. So that's what this is from. Let's see if I can get it. That's tough doing this by yourself. So here is the American epilogue to the last episode of The Fugitive with the narration.
Hey, Tuesday, August 29th, the day the running stopped.
So there's the original air date. Oh, and listen to this news update.
An Asian gang attacks a Vietnamese restaurant, shooting
From-
one customer. Protesters line up against a Cherokee County landfill. And Marietta police brace for gay rights activists and counter-demonstrators on the square. All that plus a look at the weekend weather, the latest from the ballpark, and the winning lottery numbers on 11 Alive News.
Okay, why did I play that? Well, it's because 11 Alive WXIA TV here in Atlanta, Georgia, actually aired the original episode. It used to be an ABC affiliate before Cox, who owned Channel 2, did a deal to switch. They switched from NBC to ABC affiliates here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. I know that's not of any interest to anyone watching out of state or in another country, but here in Atlanta, Georgia, it's kind of cool that years later, in 1993, it aired in prime time again on the very affiliate, who then was an NBC affiliate, aired the ABC final episode of The Fugitive. So now here's quickly the end credits, or the epilogue from the 1986 Good Times Home Video version, and a little bit longer of the scene, a little more of it. Here you go.
Dr. Kimball, how do you feel now that you're a free man?
How do you think he feels?
What are your immediate plans, Doctor?
Well, I'd see some of my family and go back to work, I guess.
Well, what's the first thing you plan to do?
Get out of here.
Dick says he'll meet us back home later.
Okay.
Not very good for audio, but I like the music anyway. What's happening now is Kimball is seeing Lieutenant Gerard, played by Barry Morris, who chased him across the country those 4 years, and he shakes his hand. A moment of peace between them. And he's spotting a police car. Normally he'd be a paranoid wreck when he sees a cop car. But now he's a free man. He's been cleared.
Hey!
Hey.
Tuesday, September 5th, the day the running stopped.
September 5th. And so that's the Canadian print. Kind of a screw up all these years. And MeTV actually airs, to this day, the Canadian print. If you watch The Fugitive, which does air, it's a terrible time slot, Sunday morning at 2 a.m. into Monday morning. Actually, it's Monday morning. Sunday night, technically Monday morning at 2 a.m. to 3 a.m., MeTV airs The Fugitive. But they have, from the distributor, it's not their fault, the Canadian version that was released on home video in 1986 by Good Times Home Video. So, moving on my list here. And I have some modern stuff like Dexter. We're going to talk about the good and bad endings. Speaking of bad, how about Breaking Bad? My God, what a great show Breaking Bad was on AMC. And of course, they brought it back in the form of a prequel. But the finale, called Felina, aired on September 29th, 2013. It was the 16th episode of the final season 5. Let's listen to a little bit of the last episode of Breaking Bad. And of course, that show broke all sorts of ratings records for AMC. And it's just tremendously well written and acted. Bryan Cranston is just awesome.
did it come from? And why is it here?
I earned it, and you're going to give it to my children for any reason that my children do not get this money. A kind of countdown will begin.
Does this look like a partner to you? Come here, take a look. Come here. Toddy, get him off, would you?
Yeah, Toddy, get them both off.
Good sound.
Mr. White.
Remember that? He gets busted. So, Breaking Bad, one of the best finales of all time. I just love it. There was another show I liked. It was more modern, of course. It's not that modern, but it ended in 2019. The Big Bang Theory that I liked, because I liked all the pop culture and nerd references because I am a nerd. And that's produced by Warner Brothers, or was. And so there was a heavy slant towards DC characters like Batman and Superman. But in the finale, actually, they talked a little bit about Marvel characters. But the last episode aired on May 16th, 2019 on CBS. It's called the Stockholm Syndrome. And a lot of people don't like sitcoms, and a lot of my friends don't. Ryan in particular, to call him out in a good way, he just can't stand sitcoms. And he says, if you watch a sitcom without the laugh track, it's terrible. The writing is bad. The jokes are bad. It's just not very entertaining. But I like the ones that had a live audience. And there is a debate whether Big Bang Theory, a lot of people think it was a laugh track. I happen to know, no, they tape 2 shows before a live audience. And what they do in editing is they choose, of course, the best take, like they do with regular dramatic shows or shows shot on film. But the Big Bang Theory was great. I love that cast. And one of the cast members, Alan, he was in, of course, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. He doesn't like to acknowledge or talk about that. He played Rusty in that classic Christmas comedy. But let's play a little bit of the last scene of the Big Bang Theory.
We did it?
We did it.
6 times 10 to the 8th atoms of radium in a lead jar. 6 times 10 to the 8th atoms of radium. If the half-life of radium should happen to pass, 3 times 10 to the 8th atoms of radium in a lead jar.
Really hope you're almost to 0.
No, see, that's the beauty of half-lives. It's impossible to determine when you'll arrive at 0. It's like wheels on the bus if the bus had an unknowable number of parts.
Yeah, we're gonna need more coffee. Yep. I'm with Leonard, coffee?
Black and strong like Luke Cage.
Too tired to
Marvel
even be
reference?
disturbed by that. Sheldon?
Absolutely not. The Nobel Committee will be making the calls to inform the winners at any minute. So the only drug I need is the endorphins pumping through my brain in anticipation of our victory.
Well, technically, anticipation wouldn't be mediated by endorphins as much as dopamine, but, you've been up all night, so I'll give you that one.
Really? The second he stops talking?
He passed out.
Well, should we wake him up?
Well, he did say if he fell asleep, we were allowed to slap him awake.
Oh, boy.
Wait a minute. Why do you get to do it?
Because I called it.
You can't just call it. You have to earn it.
Oh, and you've earned it.
No one has earned it more than me.
You have your whole life to smack him around. This is my time.
Fine, don't miss.
Not a volleyball. I can handle it.
Oh, wait. Hang on. When you're old, you are going to want a record of this.
Oh, yeah. Do it in slow-mo. I want to see his cheeks ripple.
Ready?
It's happening! Unknown caller, it's gotta be them.
Hey, put it on speaker.
Hello?
Hi.
Well, this is Sweden calling. Is this Dr. Cooper and Dr. Fowler?
Yes?
Congratulations. It is my pleasure to inform you that you've won the Nobel Prize in being sucker!
All right.
The Swedish accent was very convincing. This is it! What do you want, Howard?
We were just calling to see if you'd heard yet.
We haven't.
But thank you for getting up so early to call. That was very thoughtful.
Oh, please. We have 2 little kids. We've been up for an hour.
Did anyone get to slap Sheldon?
No. Okay, I'm going to cut this clip, but it was a very highly rated show, and it lasted years and years. And I watched like the first 5 seasons, and then I stopped watching it. But I like how currently, as I record this, I'm going to date this pod blast a little bit. But on Jeopardy, Mayim Bialik, who played Blossom, that's where she first started in the early 90s, directed by Bill Bixby until his unfortunate death on November 21st, 1993. But she's doing a fantastic job, in my opinion, hosting Jeopardy. And overwhelmingly, what I've read, the response has been just very positive about her job as host of Jeopardy. And then also I liked Mike Richards, the executive producer, but I digress, as a guest host. And we're going to see who gets that slot. Ken Jennings is fine, too. I think he did a great job. And he, of course, had the experience being the biggest, highest earning champion in Jeopardy history. But she's doing a fantastic job. No clip here, but I like the finale to Friday Night Lights, February 9th, 2011 on NBC, and that show lasted 5 seasons. Now, how about Dexter? A lot of fans didn't like the finale to Dexter, but he's coming back, so I think things can be righted, where he sort of, spoiler alert, just took off, and you don't really have a definitive ending. I do have a clip from that final episode, and that final episode of Dexter lasted 9 seasons on Showtime, is titled Remember the Monsters. So here's just a quick clip of the last episode of Dexter with this.
I want to hear you say. Say it already or I'll crawl out of this bed and kick your fucking ass.
Language alert, sorry. Forgot to warn you.
Goodbye. I'll see you soon. You make me feel so fucking safe. You've always taken care of me. I know you're gonna be a great father because you've always been a great big brother.
So it's just I want to flash back.
With all my heart.
Did you like Dexter? I thought it was very well written. I thought it was a really cool show. But so many people hated that. And there was a lot of videos on YouTube and articles that were written analyzing that ending. And here's a little bit of some reaction to the last episode of Dexter.
Thought that if I ever left Miami, I'd be running for my life, not running towards a new one.
Over the course of 8 seasons, Dexter fans, and even Dexter himself, spent a lot of time thinking about how it would end.
Nothing lasts forever. Eventually, most serial killers get caught.
The Showtime series about a serial killer who only preys on other murderers posed some bold, bloody questions. Can we sympathize with a character who takes pleasure in murdering? Can we feel something for a man who feels nothing?
Maybe if I don't blink, my eyes will tear up.
And perhaps the biggest one of all, can he get away with it?
I suddenly find myself weighing the benefits of electrocution versus lethal injection.
This question was answered a few times over the course of the show, as Dexter's double life was discovered by various people, even those closest to him.
Oh, God.
But as he repeatedly evaded being captured or killed over the years, the show always seemed to be building to a grand finale, one that would answer definitively whether Dexter would be punished or go scot-free and force viewers to confront how they feel about it.
Sometimes I wonder what it would be like for everything inside me that's denied and unknown to be revealed.
Instead, the show went out quietly and ambiguously. Dexter fakes his death. and disappears into the woods, remaking himself as a tormented lumberjack, his secrets safe and his overall fate uncertain. The backlash was swift from those who felt it was a cop-out.
I can't leave you like this.
Some critics and now former fans even said the finale had retroactively spoiled their enjoyment of the show.
I just want to say that they absolutely ruined the show for no frickin' reason whatsoever.
It's never easy to end a long-running series in a way that satisfies everyone, but Dexter's ending was uniquely reviled. So where did Dexter go so wrong?
Where is the orderly, controlled, effective Dexter? How did I lose him?
Here's our take on that controversial ending and how shows like Dexter set expectations that ultimately decide whether they will leave us feeling content or cold.
I thought I was headed in the right direction. My dark passenger back behind the wheel. But if I was so sure I knew where I was going, how did I get so lost?
So there you have it. And that's just some reaction from that author to the last episode of Dexter. By the way, I was at the store the other day. I'm going to digress here. And have you noticed that when someone says, have a blessed day, it's like they're really telling you to go F yourself? I swear I was in the grocery store and this lady worked there and just, it's a long story. I probably shouldn't even brought that up. Getting back to the topic at hand, how about the last episode of Seinfeld? Loved Seinfeld. I mean, who didn't, right? I mean, that was the true must-see TV of NBC on Thursday night. And it lasted 9 seasons, and the last episode aired on May 14th, 1998. It was a 2-hour event. The first hour was like a clip show, Best of Seinfeld, but a lot of people don't like that ending either. And I've got a quick clip of the very last scene of the final episode of Seinfeld, as well as some reaction to it. But that was a big event, and I remember the scene where the plane's going down, and Elaine, you think she's going to confess her love for Jerry, but no, that's not what she says. And then they all wind up going to prison at the end. You know, that was just such a downer ending, but Jerry Seinfeld, what a genius, right? I mean, he went out while the show was still on top, still high in the ratings, and he'd made his money, and, you know, and so did the cast members, but a lot of them kind of had torrid events happen after, like Michael Richards insulted some African Americans in the audience, and it really negatively affected his career. But I remember seeing Michael Richards in Problem Child right before Seinfeld started. It was a movie starring John Ritter, and that's where he met his wife, Amy Yazbek. She played his love interest in that movie, and they adopt this terrible demon child, and they made a couple movies. By the way, the second Problem Child had a horrible scene with these roaches. I hate scenes with roaches, you know, real life roaches, and they actually squish them in the salad. I'm sorry, close to dinner time. Don't mean to gross anyone out, but it's a disgusting scene in Problem Child too. But I like Michael Richards. I like that whole cast. And remember the DLT ad with Jason Alexander? And I think he wore a hairpiece, or either his hair didn't fall out, but I think it was a piece. But he was singing and dancing. I should have pulled that clip. Maybe Barry will play it on his show, his and Alan's show, BK on the Air, or I'll play it here another time. But it was a funny ad where he's singing, and he can sing. Jason Alexander's very, very talented. Of course, best known as playing George on Seinfeld. So let's play a little bit of some reaction. And here's a setup
New
to
York City is
listen.
out in force tonight for the send-off to Seinfeld. Good evening. For a show about nothing, it's getting quite a farewell.
Indeed it is. From their living rooms to Times Square to parties all around New York City, people said goodbye to 4 lovable neurotics who have given us 9 years of laughter. After all the hype, tonight was the night that Seinfeld signed off.
So you will miss Seinfeld?
Yes.
I think I'll miss it because it's just a pastime. It's just become a habit.
76.3 million. That is how many viewers tuned in for the finale of one of the greatest, most groundbreaking, and beloved television sitcoms of all time. The 4th largest audience for a series finale in television history, the conclusion of a classic, the end of an era.
Most fans hated the Seinfeld series finale. It was just off-key and bloated, in many people's opinions.
Despite the fact that for 10 years, the American people tuned in religiously week after week, to bear witness to the selfish, irresponsible, and often socially inept shenanigans of Jerry, George, Elaine, and Kramer upon the airing of the finale, where our 4 leads are put on trial for standing by as an innocent man is mugged, and several of the characters they slighted throughout the series take the stand to recall just how awful these individuals truly are, leading to them being sent to prison as the series comes to a close, fans went apeshit. While you will often see the word polarizing being thrown out a lot in regard to a number of series finales, the finale of Seinfeld really doesn't fall under that purview, as it was pretty much resoundingly hated by both fans and critics. And unlike other divisive finales, such as the ending of The Sopranos, it hasn't exactly been granted widespread retrospective appreciation, even to this day being remembered as one of the most disappointing finales in television history. But that leaves the question, why? Originally, this video was simply going to be a breakdown and defense of the final episode, but upon rewatching the episode itself, well, there actually was nothing to comment on. I'd argue the finale is perfectly consistent with the tone of, and a thematically fitting conclusion to, the series. So why did fans react in such a hostile manner? Why did them finally seeing these 4 unabashedly narcissistic individuals receive their comeuppance rub so many the wrong way? Well, if you will indulge me in a drawn-out, pretentious video essay that touches upon an array of topics, from the audience's deeper relationship with mass media entertainment to Sigmund Freud's theory of the unconscious, I would be happy to present a theory. Before we begin, I will be discussing a number of shows throughout this video, so if you don't want any of them possibly spoiled, make sure you check the description where I will list them. Also, a big thanks to those in my Discord who helped me sort out my ideas for this video, as there was a point in drafting the script where I thought I was completely losing my mind. With all of that said, let's set the stage. The relationship between media entertainment and those who consume it has been the subject of an overwhelming amount of research, discussion, and controversy. Perhaps one of the most prominent aspects of this conversation is the connection between violent content, whether it be movies, television, music, or video games, and real-world violence. A conversation that was pushed to the forefront, particularly after the Columbine High School massacre.
Okay, I don't know where this
of
guy's going with this, so
1999.
I'm going to cut the clip, but got to give credit to this gentleman. His YouTube channel is Macabre Storytelling. And if you don't know how to spell macabre, it's M-A-C-A-B-R-E, storytelling. And he put that together. And I thought it was pretty well done. I should have edited it, so apologies for that. But here is an actual clip from the last scene. This is the last scene of Seinfeld.
With the yard. I mean, when I
And
was a
Jerry's
kid,
performing stand-up comedy in prison, wearing orange
Tommy sticking a
jumpsuits.
shiv in my thigh.
Hang on, let me start it over.
So what is the deal with the yard? I mean, when I was a kid, my mother wanted me to play in the yard, but of course she didn't have to worry about my next door neighbor Tommy sticking a shiv in my thigh. And what's with the lockdown? Why do we have to be locked in ourselves? Are we that bad that we have to be sent to prison? In prison? You would think the weightlifting and the sodomy is enough.
You can't say that these days.
So, anyone from Cell Block D?
I am.
I'll talk slower. I'm kidding. I love Cell Block D. My friend George is in Cell Block D. What are you in for, sir?
Murder 1.
Murder 1. Ooh, watch out, everybody. Better be nice to you. I'm only kidding, sir. Lighten up. How about you? What are you in for?
Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto. Don't steal any of my jokes.
You suck. I'm gonna cut you.
Hey, I don't come down to where you work and knock the license plate out of your hand.
All right, Seinfeld, that's it. Let's go. Come on.
All right. Hey, you've been great. See you in the cafeteria.
Pretty funny stuff, though. I thought that was pretty good. Good set there. But like I said, it wasn't very well received. Now, Alan Sanders is commenting on Facebook about Game of Thrones. He did not like the finale, as did most people. And of course, Game of Thrones lasted 8 seasons on HBO. And the final installment aired May 19th, 2019, titled The Iron Throne. And here's a little bit of The Iron Throne with the Queen. If I can get right on this, it's at the 4-minute mark. It's tough doing this by myself, but let's go here. Hey, hang on a second. Make the picture on. Hang on. We interrupt this clip because we have a special caller on the line. And it's someone that I've talked about. You love his show, and if you don't, you should. It is called BK on the Air, and I talk about it all the time. Is that you, Mr. King?
It is me. Hey, buddy.
What's happening? How's your weekend going?
Good. Pretty good so far. I had a lot of good time yesterday with you on the air, too. Yeah.
At the very beginning, I know Alan is on Facebook, your partner in crime, and my cousin, on Nostalgic Cousin, not, of course, real blood relation cousin. And he tuned in late. He's got some projects going on. But at the beginning, I talked about what a great experience I had at WBHF. And I thanked you for the experience and talked about how it's so cool that people are walking by. They're literally walking by. There's a big window outside as part of your studio. And I love that. Actually, I didn't think I mentioned this. There's a loudspeaker outside so people can hear you guys while you're live on the air Saturdays from 10 a.m. to noon. That's pretty cool.
It is cool, and we had a good time yesterday. Finally having you on the air live after all the COVID lockdown that everyone's been going through. But yeah, we can do that again sometime soon. I'm looking forward to it.
Really, I would love that. Thank you.
Well, you're talking about the shows today that had bad endings, or good shows with bad endings. I've got kind of two separate sections that I wanted to talk about with you. The shows with bad endings, and shows. I got 3 shows that never got to have a last episode, which I thought they deserved one. And I wish that they could have gone out on a last episode. There's a lot more that people could think of than the ones I'm bringing up, but these are just ones that come to my mind that I would watch and was very disappointed in either their bad endings or the fact that they didn't get to have one. First of all, my worst, one of the worst endings of any show I think that I'd ever seen before was The Prisoner. It was called Fallout. And I know that you're familiar with Patrick McGowan and The Prisoner, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the Fallout, it's almost like I don't think Patrick McGowan could understand what he wanted to do to end the show because it was such a strange, way out there, crazy, weird show that no one had ever seen before at that time. And I think the ending was just, it was a mishmash of just a lot of things that didn't make a lot of sense. And I understand there was a lot of switchboard calls and death threats back in the time to McGowan and his family. He had to move or relocate after that final episode of The Prisoner was aired.
I didn't know that. Holy smokes. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
death threats?
Crazy
it's a TV show.
Yeah, come on. There aren't real people on Gilligan's Island. They're just actors. Come on. The other show that I was very disappointed in the ending was the sitcom Alice. Alice ran for several years on CBS and went through cast changes. Holly Holiday, Flo left, and then was replaced twice by 2 other actresses over the years. But they had a final show, which wound up being Mel selling the diner, and it was a best-of clip, and it just seemed like it was rushed together. They would talk about memories, and, remember when this happened? And they'd show the clip. And I don't think they didn't show any clips of Holly Holiday.
They did not. And that was crazy. She left to do a spinoff show, Flo, that lasted a season and a half. Joyce Bulifant was in the cast, as was Jeffrey Lewis, what's her name? Juliette Lewis's dad, that some of the younger audience members might know from the movies. And anyway, yes, and they did not even show one single clip of, and she was like one of the breakout stars of Alice. Kiss my grits. I mean, she was just a great character from the Yellow Rock from Texas.
It might have something to do with. I always read a lot of articles, different writings that Linda Lavin did not get along with Polly Holiday, and that might have had something to do with it. Now they did show one little snippet of her in the end credits when it went off. You saw a float shot or something like that. I think in the end credits or in the title sequence of that show. But yeah, Alice, I think it was a rushed ending, and I don't think everybody's a gigantic fan of Alice, but it was a popular show, and I liked it. I thought it was a funny show. And seeing that last episode, you kind of went, that was a little disappointing. But my biggest disappointing ending of all time, I think.
Can I say one thing real quick about Alice? Yeah. Philip McKeon recently passed away. He played Tommy, Alice's son. And, of course, his little sister was on The Facts of Life as Jo, Nancy McKeon. But he's gone. Can you believe it? And Vic Tayback is gone. And Vic Tayback, as you know, was in a classic Star Trek episode, A Piece of the Action, about a comedic Star Trek episode about mobsters. Anyway.
That's right. And I remember and a couple of times I think Vic Tayback did a funny parquet and margarine commercial, which was funny. But yeah, that's right. We lost Michael McKean. But Star Trek Enterprise.
Philip McKean. Did I say Michael? It's Philip McKean. My bad.
Sorry, Philip McKean. Yeah. Star Trek Enterprise was like the the prequel show to show how the Federation started, Starfleet and all that stuff. It was a prequel Star Trek show. And to me, my favorite show of Star Trek was the original series. Well, my second favorite Star Trek television series was Enterprise. I thought it was a fantastic, adventurous show. It showed the gritty, awesome way of how they're just figuring all these out. They're scared to use the transporter because they don't know what it'll do. They finally use it. They're figuring out phasers and lasers and their torpedoes and stuff, and everyone's kicking their butt because they're new into they're venturing out from Earth. The humans are in this starship called Enterprise, and they're just getting out there, and the Vulcans are kind of helping them along, but holding them back. It was a very well-written show, starring Scott Bakula as Captain Archer.
I call him Scott Pukula. He was in I Don't Care for Him. I sound like Al. I didn't care for him. I mean, he's a fine actor. He's a fine actor, but he was best known for doing Quantum Leap. That's what put him on the map in the early 1990s, and I think late 80s. Yes.
Yeah, I disagree with him on that one because I always liked Scott as Captain Archer. He's a
likable guy. I don't know.
Profanity and stuff. He would get mad and use profanity and stuff because they never did that in later Star Trek. We're still learning and violent humans at that point. But it was a well done show. Connor Trinneer played Trip, his engineer Trip. He was a great character too. Reminds me of the young Tommy Lee Jones when he talks. But and then they wound up doing the final episode. They knew the show was going to end after 4 years, so they just put together this shoddily put together episode of Riker and Troy from Picard's Enterprise watching their final moments as a crew splitting up, and Archer giving a speech at the founding of the United Federation of Planets, and wound up killing Trip. Just real quick, just killed him in an explosion on board the ship during some alien takeover. To me, it was just rushed. Like, well, we got to do a finale. Let's just do this after 4 years of everybody falling in love with these characters. So that's my number one, I think, worst ending of a television show where they just really dropped the ball on the last episode.
Okay, and that's interesting. I wasn't a big fan of it, but it was well done. I like 7 of 9. That was one of my favorite characters on another Star Trek show.
Yeah, she was Jerry Ryan, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and they brought her back recently in the new Star Trek show on Paramount Plus.
Picard,
right.
Well, the 3 shows I want to mention that didn't get to have an ending, which I wish they had an ending, were Mork and Mindy.
Oh, yes. Now, they got married? So that's kind of like Idra Magini, like the ratings tanked. It's like there was no tension, there was no mystery as to whether or not they were going to actually tie the knot anymore, so the ratings tanked. And David Letterman was on Mork and Mindy for a while.
Yeah.
Before his Late Night with David Letterman show that started February 1st, 1982. Anyway, go on, I'm sorry.
Jonathan Winters played Mirth, his son, his full-grown son, which was who Robin Williams idolized anyway, and influenced him in his stand-up and his improvisation career. But it was Mork and Mindy was abruptly canceled, and the series they shuffled episodes and tried to give the show a series finale. But the storylines that they had before were left unresolved. The last episode featured Mork trying to figure out how to stay happily married on Earth, but it came right after a 3-part episode. I don't know if people remember this, but I do. It came after a 3-part episode where Mork and Mindy end up trapped in the past. And basically, when Mork and Mindy was canceled, the team, from what I read, they moved the episode about Mork figuring out marriage to the end of the season, and it was an attempt to give some closure or whatever, and they ignored the cliffhanger from the previous episode, which really made me mad. Originally, the 3-part episode was going to be the season 4 finale, what I heard, and season 5 would have picked up with Mork and Mindy traveling through time and meeting historical figures and stuff. Maybe it's best they didn't do that. Maybe it would have helped the show. I don't know, but that's actually how it happened and what happened, and I think that was a huge missed opportunity, and it was really a crappy way to end the show, is just shuffle that around and ignore the story and do that at the end. I thought that was terrible.
And what was that a spinoff of? Everybody knows. I know you know. Mork and Mindy was a spinoff of?
Yeah, everybody may not know, but Mork and Mindy, Mork first showed up in a dream that Fonzie had on Happy Days.
Wasn't it Richie? Richie Cunningham having the dream?
Did he have a dream? Yeah, one of them dreamed the alien Mork came.
Ron Howard's Richie Cunningham fell asleep. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, it's from Happy Days. That's the point. Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah. The other series that I wished would have had an ending but didn't, and even the cast to this day wish that they could come together to do a final episode, and the fans hated that they didn't do it, and they were just canceled. And that's Married with Children.
Oh, wow. Good one.
Yeah, they never had an ending, and the cast was really upset about it. I think that show was considered it was a ratings. They did well in the ratings, and I thought Married with Children was hilarious. But they did well, and I think they were kind of treated as the redheaded stepchildren of the network. A lot of people didn't like. A lot of the network execs, I think, didn't like the show. Just like WKRP in Cincinnati, some of the executives didn't get it. They're like, "Well, we got this show on. People seem to watch it, but we don't get it. We don't really like it. We don't like it. That's no reason to do that, though." So I wish they had a last episode. And just for the heck of it, I kind of wish the original Star Trek with William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy in the '60s. I kind of wish they would have had a last episode to kind of wrap things up in a way after 3 years on the air, but they were kind of just abruptly canceled too. And I don't even think you may remember this, Chance. I don't think the last episode of Star Trek, which is Turnabout Intruder, when Kirk and a former girlfriend,
Dr. Janice Lester, yeah,
a machine where she switches bodies with him and takes over his body and tries to take over the Enterprise and his command to pay him back.
It's like Freaky Friday, yeah.
Yeah, freaky Star Trek, Freaky Trek, but they never aired that episode, I think. I think it was preempted by a special news event in 1969. I don't know what it would have been. People that know more than me would know, but I think it was interrupted, or the airing of it was interrupted, and it didn't air until syndication or reruns in the next year or something. So they didn't even get to see the last episode if you were watching Star Trek back in '69.
I got to correct you. I don't think that's right, because the air date was in 1969.
That's what I said, '69.
Yeah, well, that's when that was the natural. It was the end of '68-'69 season. I mean, that was like it aired on the normal air date.
But they're saying that. But a lot of people said that maybe the whole episode didn't air because there was a special news thing that happened on that date. I don't know what it was, but NBC cut in with a news report that interrupted quite a bit of the episode.
Oh, okay, so it was preempted,
Right.
like the first half or a whole segment. Okay, I got you. I'm sorry.
I can't remember. It was something like that, but I'd have to double check. So they didn't even get to see a lot of the last episode or any of it or some of it. And it wasn't a final episode. It was just a kind of a throwaway third season episode. So there's three that I wish had an ending, and three for you that I thought the endings were terrible.
It aired. You know what? You know what? I'm gonna say something here and correct myself, because if you look at, I'm looking at the air dates. All Our Yesterdays was the second to last Star Trek episode from season 3, aired March 14th, '69, and then Turnabout Intruder aired months later, June 3rd, '69. So I got to research this. I learned something new from you, Barry.
I just don't know. I don't know what the reason was. It was either a news, it was a special bulletin or some news thing that preempted it, or either preempted or interrupted quite a bit of it from people to watch.
Do you remember the last line of the last Star Trek episode? It's kind of fitting.
Was it?
That's okay.
Kirk say, "If only."
That's it. You are so good. If only.
Yeah.
If only. Yes, if only the network had not interfered. The Suits really sabotaged it by putting it on Friday night and gave it a graveyard time slot when it was on Thursday nights, doing okay. But, the Invaders always got higher ratings than Star Trek. The Quinn Martin
and I
show.
never understood. The Invaders, more of a Quinn Martin production. He had a lot more clout and a lot more, I guess, gravitas to his productions, and
Good word.
his name was well known. But yeah, it was. Who knows if we'd have got a great ending or the smash ending to the Star Trek show. If it had ended, that I don't think it would have affected it in syndication. I still think it would have went on and garnered fans the way it did, and then turned into. Thanks to Star Wars being made.
It was lucky to have a third season, as you know. A letter writing campaign saved Star Trek. It was going to be canceled after season 2, but the fans wrote in.
Making Star Wars, and then that led them Paramount to make. They're going to make a network, and they scrubbed that and did that many years later, and they made Star Trek the motion picture. But yeah, it's weird how things can't survive on television but come back later. Audiences maybe are more sophisticated. I remember one quirky show. Leslie Nielsen and the Abrams and Zucker brothers did a show with him called Police Squad. Remember that on ABC?
Yes.
It couldn't survive on television, but they turned around and made Naked Gun motion pictures, and they were a smash.
Yep. Good point.
It's really weird. It's weird sometimes how that happens.
I love Star Trek. When they were on, some of the cast members were on the Tomorrow Show with Tom Snyder in 1976 with Harlan Ellison, who wrote arguably the best Star Trek of all time, City on the Edge of Forever, with guest star Joan Collins, a time travel love story. with a tragic ending. Anyway, Walter Koenig, who played Chekhov, Pavel Chekhov, the Russian, he's great. He's taking on Harlan Ellison, who's being kind of a jerk about how no one cares about Star Trek. You haven't done a show in 6 years. And he goes, but we're coming back, baby, says Walter Koenig. And he was right, as you said, with Star Trek the Motion Picture at the end of 1978. Rated G, by the way. It was a rated G release originally.
Harlan Ellison was a jerk? Really?
He was a pompous ass.
That's unbelievable.
Great writer, and he wrote Outer Limits episodes like Demon with the Glass Hand. Anyway, he wasn't happy with Star Trek. You know this because he wanted there to be an intergalactic drug dealer on the Enterprise, and he's the one that screws up the time portal. He beams down to the planet and goes through is it the Guardian?
The Guardian. Yeah.
The Guardian
of Forever.
controls time. Yeah, and so it was a drug dealer, and so NBC or I think the network objected, and they changed the script without telling him, and that really made him mad, and he never wrote for Star Trek again because of that incident. Anyway.
And the Guardian of Forever showed up again on the Star Trek Discovery show on Paramount Plus, and they used the same. He spoke with the. They used some of the same sound bite of his voice. I am the Guardian of Forever. They used that actual sound bite of his voice from the original series as part of his dialogue.
Wow.
Which I thought was interesting too. But I just saw a clip of that. I haven't watched that show, but yeah, it's been a long time coming for a lot of these shows. But some of them didn't get their just end episode, but some of them got rather mediocre or half baked end episodes, in my opinion.
Very, very cool, man.
Maybe you should do a show later on. I don't know. I'm not telling you what shows to do, but you could do another show on shows that had fantastic endings, which a lot of them did.
Well, that's what today's about. Good and bad endings. We're covering both ends of the spectrum.
I didn't know you were including good today. Okay.
Yeah, doing good and bad.
Well, I know a lot of people had a lot of people had problems with the Game of Thrones ending, but I really didn't have a problem with it. I saw the ending, and I'm like, oh, this is a great way to wrap this show up. Now, granted, I binged watch it, so I didn't have any time vested in the show. I was watching just one after another, so it did end, and I'm like, oh, that was a fantastic ending. Everybody wound up maybe exactly where they should, but I guess people that were watching it all along that had to wait each week for a new one and in the build-up, maybe they thought it came too quick or not, but I had no problem with the Game of Thrones ending at all.
Okay, cool.
And I never read the books either, so maybe that's another reason.
And how about that episode where you could see the Starbucks coffee cup? Like the director didn't catch that.
I never noticed it. I mean, people told me about it, and it must go by. And if you're not, some things go by in shows like that. If you're not specifically, they don't tell you about it, and you're not specifically looking for it, you won't see it. And I didn't see it. I missed it when I was watching The Mandalorian. I didn't see the crew member in the background the first time I watched it. When there's a crew member in the background in one of the episodes of the Prison Break episode. Too, and I never saw that. But then when I rewatched it and goes, now watch here, he's back here, there he is, and then they point it out to you like, oh, I see it now if you're pointing it out to me. But I never watch it as you're watching the show in its regular time. I didn't see it.
Excellent. Do you have any other picks or any other? I know you're focused on the bad ones. Was that your last one, or do you have any more?
I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of shows that had that ended well, and a lot of shows that ended that were still good. Some shows kind of go along and they don't need an ending sometimes. But I know that we didn't enjoy the ending to Dexter very much either. The serial killer show, we thought that ending was lacking a little bit too. But I don't know what would be the most spectacular finale. I didn't give that much thought today. I'll have to think about that and maybe text it or put it on the
or
Facebook
call back.
page.
Call back. I'm going 3 hours today, or I'm going to try to. But
yeah, think of one. I'll check back in with you.
And you know what? It's a shame, like The Purge that CBS did when All in the Family came out. Like they took out all the quote-unquote rural comedies that were denied a good last episode, like Petticoat Junction, Green Acres, yada, yada, yada. Even Hogan's Heroes, which wasn't a rural comedy, but it got taken out.
Andy Griffith, yeah.
Mayberry RFD.
Yeah.
That existed after Andy Griffith show.
It was a continuation of Andy Griffith, but it wasn't that great of a show. It wasn't a classic. And I don't know if anyone's seen it. If anyone wants to check, log on to YouTube sometime and look up the new Andy Griffith show pilot. They actually did a pilot with Andy Griffith called The New Andy Griffith Show, and it's where he moves to a bigger town, and it's just a continuation kind of his character after he moved out of Mayberry. But it's a pilot episode, but it's really horrible, and I see why it didn't sell.
He was in like the second Bionic Woman episode. Anyway. but I digress.
Andy Griffith, he
Yeah.
was alive. Salvage One, where he was the guy collecting the space junk from orbit on ABC. I remember that show. Yeah,
Before Matlock.
He was a great bad guy. Andy Griffith played a villain. He played a bad role in a television movie with Johnny Cash called Murder in Coweta County, and it was about a real murder that happened in Noonan, Georgia, Coweta County, Georgia, where he was a vile character in that. Did you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, he was great in that, and he did a movie called Pray for the Wildcats in 1974, where it was Andy Griffith, William Shatner, Robert Reed, and they're all guys who it's kind of a sort of a deliverance storyline, but they all wanted to go. They're all business execs, and they want to take a motorcycle ride out in the desert out west, just to get away from it all. And Andy Griffith's character winds up killing a hippie because he was really prejudiced against hippies and stuff, and just a really mean guy. And he wanted to cover it up and stuff, and they're all trying to make it back on the bikes. And it's a very well done TV movie, Pray for the Wildcats. I think it's on DVD and Blu-ray now. I think they released it finally.
Very cool.
It's a great movie. If you've never seen it, you might want to search for a film print of that if it's available. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And at the top of the show, I started with the final Fugitive episode, talked about the rating success and how Dallas knocked that off. And then the last MASH, which I'm going to talk about later, as one of the great, great finales of all time, beat the Who Shot JR ratings record from November 21st, 1980. Anyway.
Well, that's a good one. I didn't think about that. MASH had a wonderful final show. I think I'll vote for that as right now, unless I think of something different as I go along today. I'll call you back with another one maybe. But yeah, MASH was a great finale to a show that was a great show. Yeah.
And I mean, and it just had such consistent writing throughout the whole show. That's one of the times where I think the television version was better than the feature film it was based on.
It was. I do agree with that. Not that MASH was a bad movie, but the show took it so much further. And, another show that maybe went on, that we also could talk one day about shows that went on too long, that went way past their expiration date, was Happy Days went on really way too long. Happy Days, I think, was on life support. It was just terrible. I think Happy Days died when Ron Howard left.
It did. And, they brought Heather O'Rourke in, best known as being the little girl in Poltergeist. She was the daughter of someone the Fonz was dating towards the end.
Was she playing Linda Pearl's daughter, the actress Linda Pearl, when she was on the show?
I think so. I don't know the name of the actress actually, but it was I can't recall that.
That was a love interest. And then you take Fonzie's leather jacket away from him and make him a teacher at a school. That just doesn't work either. That's just time. It's time to hang it up and move on.
I noticed the episode quality dipped. Not the jump the shark. That the expression obviously comes from the Happy Days 3-part show. It was like the season 5 premiere September '77, where they go to California, like Richie run a contest to write like a Hollywood script. So they go to Paramount Studios, which is where Happy Days was taped before a live audience and was filmed before it went before a live audience. And he jumps a shark in an iconic scene on water skis. And that's where the expression jump the shark comes from. But I was going to say, I think when he changed T-shirts, if you notice in the early episodes, Fonzie didn't have a leather jacket at all in season 1 and 2 that were shot on film without a live studio audience.
He had a khaki jacket, yeah.
But his undershirt, originally his undershirt was white. When it changed to black in the later episodes, that seems to coincide with the crappy writing and how the quality went down.
When Richie left and Fonzie's undershirt turned to black, it all went downhill. That's right. We put those two together. But yeah, some shows went out on top thinking, well, we're not going to get any better. Let's just quit. Carol Burnett is to be commended for stopping her show when she did, because she's like, I don't think we're going to get any better than this. So she just, moved on, and she was still doing great when it moved on. And believe it or not, Jackie Gleason, people don't know this, he only did 39 classic syndicated episodes of The Honeymooners, and then he stopped that. Now, granted, he did a lot of live ones
after that,
Honeymooner skits on his show before that and after that, but the actual CBS show, The Honeymooners, 39 episodes, he goes, we're running out of ideas. I don't want to keep doing this as a show. We'll do it as shorts on my show.
It was on the Dumont network, a failed network, kind of like unlike Fox that succeeded at first. Everyone made fun of Fox when it hit the scene in 1986 with the Joan Rivers show, when she pissed off Johnny Carson, who I'll talk about. I got a great clip from the last Johnny Carson Tonight Show from 1992. But Fox succeeded where Dumont failed as a fourth network. But the Honeymooners, they put all their eggs in one basket with the Honeymooners, that network.
And then we know there was finally a UPN developed, United Paramount Network, the Paramount Network, which they were thinking about banding around the idea of doing it in 1977 and 78 when they were producing Star Trek Phase 2 was going to be their flagship show, which morphed into Star Trek Motion Picture, and they scrubbed those plans to do that. But, you know, many years later, they had a Paramount Network finally did it. So, and then they premiered, I think it was it Voyager or Deep Space Nine was their broadcast premiere show. It was on one of the Star Trek shows. It may have been Deep Space Nine. I can't remember what it was.
Because the Next Generation before that was syndicated. We know that. It was on WGNX 46 here in the Atlanta market. That was the affiliate, which is now a CBS affiliate, but it was an independent station back then.
Well, good stuff. There's a few that I threw out there, some finales that I didn't like, and some that deserved some. So there's a little offering from me today, and I will, if I can think of a better finale, maybe I'll call you back later. I'll put them in the group comments in the Nostalgic Podblast group page on Facebook.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm going to try to go for just under 2 more hours. So feel free to call back if you want, or just comment. I'll be looking at the comments.
Okay, man. Well, I'm enjoying it. Have a good day, buddy, and we'll talk to you soon.
And thanks to you and Alan for yesterday. Thanks. Barry King, BK on the air. Thanks, man. So getting back to our list. Barry's a great guy. He knows so much. You know, it's like we it's like he jokes about. I mean, it's like one of our parents might have hooked up down the line or something. But speaking of Fox, I brought up Fox just then about the Joan Rivers show, and everybody knows. I keep saying everybody knows. I mustn't assume. Never assume. Makes an ass out of you and me, as the expression goes. But did you know Joan Rivers did a deal with Fox and didn't tell Johnny, and she was the fill-in host for Johnny Carson for a long time, and he loved her, but he never spoke to her again after she left the Tonight Show to do the Joan Rivers show for the new network Fox. And then you had 21 Jump Street and Married with Children that Barry talked about in his call on Fox when it was first starting. But, you know, Letterman used to always make jokes. Him and Paul Schaefer had a bit on Late Night with David Letterman on NBC, the NBC years, and they'd go, there's a little thing called Fox. When they talk about network, they did a bit about network TV. And they always make fun of Fox, but Fox sure did hit it. And one of the big hits that started in 1990 was Beverly Hills 90210. And by the way, in our last 2 shows that I did about sex symbols, I forgot to mention Dylan McKay. Oh, man, I should have mentioned him. And I ran out of time. I want to talk about the Luke Perry, who passed away, God rest his soul. He was a heartthrob on Beverly Hills 90210. I'm going to play a clip of the last episode of that, which I would say is, I think, a medium. It's not good. It's not bad. It was just sort of a medium final episode. But they have a cover of a song I want to play in that last episode where they're dancing off. They're literally at a dance, and they just dance off into the end credits. And that's how Beverly Hills 90210 ended, which, of course, they brought back in a terrible revival in 2019 where it's like a reality show. And they're playing themselves selling the show to Emily Valentine, one of the characters on the show. It was just a bizarre direction. Some people liked it, but I didn't like it. Not to be negative. But let's see. I'm going to play a little bit of the last Beverly Hills 90210 episode just for the song, really. It lasted 10 seasons on Fox, by the way. Here we go. Right here. Party with you.
Let's all celebrate and have a good time. Yeah, yeah. We're gonna celebrate and have a good time. It's time to come together. It's up to you. What's your pleasure?
That's how Beverly Hills 90210 ended, and I rather liked that final
get out.
episode. of Beverly Hills 90210. And there was a lot of sex symbols that came out of that show. Of course, Tori Spelling, I think she was good looking, and she's a baby machine. So, and Jenny Garth, Tiffany Amber Thiessen, who had been on Saved by the Bell. A lot of good looking talent in there. Got some text comments, Facebook comments come in, which I'll read later. Let's see. Let's get back to the list. I got some real funny clips coming up. This is going to get better as it goes along, in my opinion. I got some crazy clips. I know Ryan's out there, frequent guest on the Nostalgic Pod Blast, Ryan Settles. Brother, if you're out there, I see you texting me. I'm going to play some of the Brady Bunch Variety Hour later. Got a choice clip of that terrible 1976 revival of the Brady Bunch. But like BK said, there were a lot of shows denied that final episode, like Beverly Hillbillies, talk about The Purge of CBS. Once All in the Family came out, and was a ratings smash hit, it was more sophisticated thanks to Norman Lear. There was a lot of controversial comedy, racial stuff you couldn't do today. Now, I know they've brought it back on ABC, executive produced by Jimmy Kimmel, and they brought back the Jeffersons as well. In front of a live studio audience, and they brought it back, and it's still somewhat edgy, I guess. But when All in the Family hit the scene, they got rid of so many shows on CBS. They just canceled them, so they were denied great final episodes. Now, Lost in Space was denied a final episode where they got back to Earth. I don't like that when there's episodes like Gilligan's Island where they're stranded, or Space 1999 on the geek side, and you don't get that final satisfying ending. But you kind of did with Gilligan's in a reunion movie. A lot of these shows had reunion movies that resolved the storyline that was unresolved in the regular run. Now, another show people love, Columbo, Peter Falk. I can't play a clip of the show Columbo, and it had a great final episode. And it really was a series of movies. They were movies of the week. It wasn't really a regular show. It was for a while in the 70s, but it just continued on into the 80s as a movie of the week situation. And Peter Falk was the star of Columbo. One more thing. That's where I get my one more thing from. I'm inspired by his, there's just one more thing. That was his classic line. And he worked for the police. And he would solve all sorts of murders and crimes, typically murders, homicides. But here's a clip of his 1972 Emmy Award speech. It's pretty funny. And he mentions Atlanta, Georgia, which is where I'm at. Anyone out there listening or watching in the Atlanta area or listening on fistfulofradio.com. Here's a little bit of Peter Falk's acceptance speech. And William Conrad is introducing him at the Emmy Awards. You know William Conrad? I mentioned him at the beginning of the show. Cannon and Jake and the Fat Man. Okay, get on the stage, man. Time's wasted. Oh, I should have edited this. I'm sorry, folks.
Thank you. Well, it's terrific to win. What an easy laugh. Yeah, it really is. It's terrific to win. I'm trying to figure out some way to appear humble. It's not going to work. I was in New York yesterday. Today is Sunday, isn't it? And I had some business in the morning, and I did 2 shows, and then I grabbed a cab, and I raced to the airport, and I tried to catch that at 11 o'clock. I figured to miss it, and I did. So I laid over in Kennedy for 3 hours to catch Eastern out to Atlanta, Georgia. I was there for 2 hours, caught Delta into Dallas, Texas, and I was 2 hours there to get TWA into L.A., and I know it's not a very interesting story. I only mention it because I wanted to point out that in regard to whether or not I wanted to be here, I was relatively indifferent. But I wouldn't be here, and there wouldn't be any Columbo. There wouldn't be any show. There wouldn't be anything if it wasn't for Bill Link and Dick Levinson. They created this character, and they created this format, and they wrote, and they produced, and And it's their idea. It's their baby. The whole thing is theirs, and I'm very grateful to them. I also want to thank Dick Irving. He's believed in this thing for about 5 years and fought for it, and I don't think without his persistence, I don't know whether it'd be on the air. I can thank Everett Chambers for a lot of things. I think I'll pick two, making me laugh and being a man. And Steve Bochco for the writing he did every week. And then I want to thank my family for giving me a week of solitude and total concentration, which allowed me to compose this acceptance speech.
I like Peter Falk. You know what, though? And something they should have done, think about this. I think this would have really helped further racial harmony. In the interest of racial harmony, it would have been cool if Peter Falk and Sammy Davis Jr. had traded glass eyes. You know what I mean? That would have been kind of cool, but I digress. You know, just pop it out, pop it in. It would have been kind of cool. I think they both had brown eyes. But anyway, I love Peter Falk, and I thought he was just fantastic. Now, I mentioned The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Well, he started in 1962, taking over from Steve Allen. And on May 22nd, 1992, the very last episode of The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson aired. And I want to play a little bit of the opening to that, including some local news, not in Atlanta, but listen to this. People in 1992 were really jazzed about sending off Johnny Carson. I mean, it was bittersweet.
Carson's finale. Mark?
Here we go.
Well, thank you, Pam. As you can tell, people down here are having a pretty good time. We've been down here for about an hour. The comics have been paying tribute to Johnny Carson. We've even had some Johnny Carson trivia. Now, the tension has been building in the last few minutes as we await the final Johnny Carson show. And so people have been practicing now. You have to forgive us, but we've been working to cue you in to this last show. So in just a few minutes, we're going to turn around now, and we're going to try and bring this final show with Johnny Carson in with style. And then we'll watch the show. So everyone's going to turn down our attention down to the stage now. Shall we do it? Let's practice.
All right, guys, we have 10 seconds to go to Johnny Carson. 9, 8,
7, 6, 5,
All right, ladies
4.
and gentlemen, the way you practice it. And now.
1962 is a day I'll always remember. I was 36 years old, taking my place as host of America's most popular late-night program, The Tonight Show.
From New York, The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson. Johnny's guests tonight are Joan Crawford, Rudy Valley, Tony Bennett, Mel Brooks, the Phoenix Singers, Skitch Henderson with the NBC Orchestra, and me, I'm Ed McMahon. Right now, let's welcome the fellow you waited 6 months to see.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. This is kind of an emotional thing for me because I've known about this show for a long time. And the newspapers and the magazines, and I've probably been interviewed 150 times in the last 9 months since I've known about this. As I say, you work up to it. We come over here this afternoon, we meet the guests that are on the show, and you get kind of charged up. I don't mean to be maudlin about it, but I know that tonight a lot of people, a lot of my friends are watching all over the country. And I only have one feeling as I stand here knowing that so many people are watching. I want my nan-nan.
Well, I made it through that first night with the help of Groucho Marx, Rudy Valley, Joan Crawford, Tony Bennett, and Mel Brooks. I could never have imagined I would walk through that curtain almost 5,000 times in 30 years.
The following program is brought to you in living color on NBC.
And now, here's Johnny!
Love that theme. Doc Severinsen and his orchestra. Johnny was a chain smoker, and it did him in, the smoking. He couldn't breathe in the end. Sad. Emphysema. was a great, great final episode. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I love you for that. Thank you.
He made so much money, so successful. Great negotiator.
Thank you. Now, thank you very much, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. That is very kind of you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I love you too. We are around the studio so emotionally high from last night's show, we have not come down yet. And I want to thank Robin Williams and Bette Midler for last night for giving us a next to closing show. They were absolutely sensational. This show tonight is our farewell show. It's going to be a little bit quieter. It's not going to be a performance show. And one of the questions that people have asked me, especially last month, is what's it like doing the Tonight Show? And what has it meant to me? Well, let me try to explain it. If I could magically, somehow, that tape you just saw, make it run backwards, I'd like to do the whole thing all over again. It has been just a hell of a lot of fun. As an entertainer, it's been a great experience in my life, and I cannot imagine finding something after I leave tonight in television that would give me as much joy and pleasure and a sense of exhilaration as this show has given me. It's just very hard to explain. Now, we don't want the show to be mawkish. This is it's a farewell show. There's a certain sadness among the staff here, a little melancholy. But look on the bright side. You won't have to read or see one more story about my leaving the show. I mean, the press coverage has been absolutely tremendous, and we are very grateful. But, my God, I mean, the Soviet Union's didn't get this kind of publicity. The press has been very decent and honest with me, and I thank them for that, and that's about it. The greatest accolade, though, I think I received today. GE named me Employee of the Month.
GE owned NBC at the time.
And God knows that was a dream come true. I don't like saying goodbye. Farewell shows are a little awkward, and I really thought about this, no joke. I thought, God, wouldn't it be funny, I thought. Instead of showing up tonight, put on a rerun. NBC did not find that funny at all. Next question I get is what are you going to do? Well, I really had not made any plans, but the events of this last week have helped me make a decision. I'm going to join the cast of Murphy Brown and become a surrogate father to that kid.
Kind of dated there.
I think that is the least I can do for wholesome family values. Now, during the run of the show, there have been 7 different United States presidents. And thankfully, for comedy, there have been 8 vice presidents of the United States.
Dan Quayle at the time,
I know
Potato.
I made a lot of jokes at the expense of Dan Quayle, but I really want to thank him tonight for making my final week so fruitful.
What would he think of Joe Biden, though, today? I wish Johnny were here to take on Joe Biden's many screw-ups.
Here is an interesting statistic that may stun you. When we started the show October 1, 1962, the total population of the Earth was 3,100,000,000 people. This summer, it is 5,500,000,000 people, which is a net increase of 2,400,000,000 people, which should give us some cause. More amazing statistic is that half of those 2,400,000,000 people will soon have their own late-night TV show. Now, originally NBC came and says, you know what we'd like you to do in the final show? We'd like to do a 2-hour primetime special with a lot of celebrities and a star-studded audience. And I said, well, I'd really prefer to end like we started, rather quietly, in our same time slot, in front of our same shabby little set. It is rather shabby. We
Burbank,
offered
California.
it to a homeless shelter, and they said, no, thank you. I am taking the applause sign home, putting it in the bedroom. Maybe once a week, just turn it on. But we do have a VPI audience, a VPI audience? We should have had that, too. What we did, I asked the members of the staff and the crew to invite their family relatives, their friends to come tonight, and they did. We've had some other invited guests. My family is here tonight, my wife, Alex, my two sons, Chris and Corey, my brother Dick, my sister Catherine, and a sprinkling of nephews and nieces. And I realize that being an offspring of somebody who is constantly in the public eye is not easy. So, guys, I want you to know I love you, and I hope your old man hasn't caused you too much discomfort. It would have been... It would have been a perfect evening if their brother Rick could have been here with us. But I guess life does what it's supposed to do, and you accept it and go on. Now, about...
And that's what we'll do, is go on. Johnny Carson, the greatest late night talk show host of all time. And he had a very emotional send-off at the end. And look it up on YouTube. It's called The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, final episode, May 22nd, 1992. In excellent quality, I might add. So continuing on with our list. You know, I wish I could play the final episode of Saturday Night Live, because I think it's just become so damn political and unfunny. I mean, there's some bits that are great. When Eddie Murphy came back recently in 2020, I loved it. Or was it 2019? Gosh, time flies. It might have been because of the COVID outbreak, which we're coming out of, thank gosh. I don't know. Anyway, he came back relatively recently, not too long ago, and he was phenomenal. And then you had like Dave Chappelle join him, and that was just one of the best. And I'm sure, I know they got phenomenal ratings. It did not disappoint. Eddie Murphy's one of my favorite stand-up comedians, and I think he'd be a good host of a late night talk show. But I remember his buddy Arsenio Hall was successful for a while with his, and he took over on Fox from Joan Rivers when the Joan Rivers show ended and didn't make it. She was doing well in certain markets in the country, but ultimately it was canceled. And then Arsenio Hall took over in that same Fox studio that Joan Rivers show started in. Now, how about Lost? Here's another really bad final episode, and that's popular opinion. I mean, most people do not like the way they ended Lost with that ending where it's purgatory, spoiler alert, or they were in purgatory the whole time. It's kind of like that Dallas episode where Bobby is in the shower and the whole previous season was a dream. You know, you feel like you wasted your time, you know, and I hated that. But I do want to play a clip of Lost, which ran 6 seasons on ABC TV. It's what put Abrams on the map, who's now directing. He's directed the revival of Star Trek and, of course, Star Wars, The Force Awakens. But he got his claim to directing and many, many gigs thanks to Lost on ABC. And from May 23rd, 2010, here's just a little bit of the last episode of Lost on ABC. I already said that, didn't I?
Dad? Hello, Jack. I don't understand. You died.
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Then how are you here right now?
How are you here?
Dun, dun, dun.
I died too.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, son.
I wish it really could be that way when you die. The transition from living to dead. Hopefully we're not just stuck in the ground or turned into ashes and that's it. I believe, though.
I sure hope so. Yeah, I'm real. You're real. Everything that's ever happened to you is real. All those people in the church, they're all real too.
They're all dead?
Everyone dies sometime, kiddo. Some of them before you, some long after you.
But why are they all here now?
Well, there is no now here.
I like that music, though.
Where are we, Dad?
This is a place that you all made together so that you could find one another. The most important part of your life was the time that you spent with these people. That's why all of you are here. Nobody does it alone, Jack. You needed all of them, and they needed you.
For what?
To remember and to let go.
Let it go, let it go.
Kate. She said we were leaving.
Not leaving, no. Moving on.
And that's just what I'm going to do, move on. With the next topic, with the next pick. So that's Lost. A lot of people just did not like that at all. But one finale that people did love was Cheers. Cheers, the final episode of that 11-season run. What a great, great show. And it was part of the original Thursday night must-see TV along with The Cosby Show. Whatever happened to Bill Cosby, by the way? But it ended on May 20th, 1993, Cheers did, with an episode called One for the Road, which was a 90-minute episode. And here's a little bit of the last scene, What's the Point to Life? This is the last scene of Cheers. Now, but by the way, did you like Shelley Long better, or did you like Kirstie Alley better? Which did you prefer? I personally did not like Shelley Long very much. I didn't like her personality. Just, I didn't care for it.
I seem to be losing my thrills and tingles, you know? Keep asking myself, what is the point to life?
Whew, that's a tough question.
Yeah, I got the answer.
Somehow I knew you would.
Comfortable shoes.
Shoes.
Yeah. If you're not wearing comfortable shoes, life is just chaos. I mean, the greatest accomplishments in history have been made by men wearing accommodating shoes. Fraser, tell me, who do you think is the greatest thinker in all of mankind?
I don't know, Aristotle?
There you go. Sandals. Perhaps the most comfortable shoe there is. You hardly even know they have them on. I mean, Confucius, thongs. Einstein, loose loafers. Wow.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what the point of life is. Having kids. Creating life. Sure, it's disappointing and painful, heartbreaking at times. Sure, they can drive you crazy and make you think you just can't get through another day. Where was I going with this?
You know, some would say that the search for meaning is a waste of time, that all human life is just a cosmic accident, an arbitrary conglomeration of molecules evolved by chance into an organism with a brain stem. condemning it to ponder futilely the reason behind it all.
Well, I know Dr. Crane is just trying to keep the conversation lively, but all I know is my life would have been nothing if it weren't for all of you. You people are as dear to me as my own family. More so, in fact.
Really, Woody?
Oh, yeah, well, for one thing, now you call me Huckleberry. I hate being called Huckleberry.
I'm your Huckleberry.
No, Woody is.
Well, I hate to get all mushy, but I gotta say, I feel pretty lucky to have the friends I do.
You know, no one wants to be the first to say it, but I'm not ashamed to admit what I think we're all feeling. The time goes by so fast. People move in and out of your life. You must never miss an opportunity to tell these people how much they mean to you. Well,
I keep coming back to that shoe thing.
Woody Harrelson, man, what a great cast, huh? I love Norm, John Ratzenberger. I mean, just a great ensemble cast. I like Coach in the beginning, of course, and that's just a phenomenal show. And I remember that last episode. It was just really well done. Now, someone has commented in Facebook. I got a June Newell has said, yes, one of the best finales was MASH, and one of the worst was Dallas. And I'm going to play a little bit of the finale of both of those shows, but the Dallas finale is the one I'm going to cover right now. The Dallas final episode aired on May 3rd, 1991. It was called Conundrum. And it was on for years. Same time slot, Friday night, 10 to 11 on CBS. Started April 2nd, 1978 as a miniseries. It was going to be a 5-part miniseries, 5 hours long. And then it did so well that in the September of 78, they brought it back as a regular weekly series. And in the final episode, it's kind of like Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, where J.R. is being shown his life. And it's not really a clip show, but he's being escorted around by what you think is an angel, but it turns out it's the devil. And the devil needs him to kill himself. And JR winds up, well, I don't want to give it away. I got the clip I want to play. And it's where he realizes that he's been talking with the devil. And this is from the 14th season of Dallas.
I guess I owe you one. Bobby's back on his feet now. He's gonna be all right.
I told you, he's a gambler. By tonight, he'll have lost it all. That's the way his life is. He can't help what he does.
Bobby doesn't have a life.
So? See what a difference you made.
You don't think I believe all this, do you? Cliff Barnes, the President of the United States. Sue Ellen making it on her own and all that stuff about Bobby and Callie. Things can't have changed that much, with or without me. Besides, what's the difference? I still don't have anybody. I'm the same as the first time I met you.
Then why don't you go ahead and kill yourself?
And send you back to heaven a failure? You'll never become an angel.
Angel? What makes you think I'm from heaven?
God, what a nightmare.
So JR's woken up and he has a bottle of booze in his hand, whiskey, bourbon.
I still got nobody.
He takes a swig of it. He's lost everything. He's lost the Ewing fortune. The oil fortune.
You thought it was a dream?
He looks in the mirror and then he sees the dude wearing all red.
Nobody loves you. They all ran off on you. Why take any more? Go on.
He's got a gun in his hand.
Pull that trigger.
Here comes Bobby driving up in his Mercedes convertible.
Get it over with. It'll be, oh, so much better. Think how sorry they'll all be.
He's pulling the gun to his temple.
That's right. Just one shot.
And
that's all it'll take.
Bobby's looking around downstairs and he walks in and sees the end credits. That's how it ended. Or did it? So Dallas came back in a series of reunion movies after that, including JR Returns on November 15th, 1996. See, it didn't show him actually pull the trigger. You just see Bobby's reaction. So it's implied that he's committed suicide, but you don't know where the bullet went. So JR did indeed come back in that movie I just mentioned, JR Returns. And then there was War of the Ewings on April 24th, 98. And Jerry Jones was in it as himself. And Jerry Jones, of course, is a longtime owner of the Dallas Cowboys in the NFL. And he's a character. And he acted in that movie playing himself. And it also had the gal from Blame It on Rio I mentioned last week in our Sex Symbols Part 2 show. And she can't act her way out of a paper bag. But Johnson's her last name. But she was great eye candy, though. And she was in that reunion movie also, War of the Ewings. And then there was a 2004 primetime reunion special called Return to South Fork on CBS, and that was really cool. If you like Dallas, which I do, I've always liked that show, and everyone participated in the main cast, including Victoria Principal, who had distanced herself from Dallas after she left in 1987. And she wound up marrying like a plastic surgeon, and of course she doesn't look the same anymore. We all get older, but you know, I know she's living well. Let's just say that she's living well. And it was really an excellent special, that Return to South Fork, and there's some pretty cool bonus materials on the DVD sets that Warner Brothers released. And then TNT brought back Dallas for 3 seasons, starting on June 13th, 2012, with the episode Changing of the Guard. And the main star was the actor who played John Ross Jr., JR's son, and Christopher, who, of course, were recast from the actors that played them in the original show. And it focused on them and their women. And, of course, JR was in it, Larry Hagman as JR. But then he died, unfortunately, on November 23rd, 2012. So that kind of hurt the show. You know, Larry Hagman being as JR, reprising that role, was a big ratings boost for TNT for that show. And when he passed away, just the ratings tanked. But Larry Hagman was born September 21st, 1931 in Fort Worth, Texas, and he's one of my favorite actors that I mention a lot here on the Nostalgic Podblast. And then the TNT revival, by the way, ended September 22nd, 2014 with the episode titled Brave New World. Now, getting back to the sci-fi geeky stuff that BK and I like, Bionic Woman had a finale. The old Bionic Woman science fiction show, which was a spinoff, of course, of The $6 Million Man. Final episode titled On the Run aired May 13th, 1978. And what was neat about that, I sound really sappy, but this was cool. I don't think many people realize this, but Oscar Goldman, played by Richard Anderson, he was getting a paycheck from both shows, The $6 Million Man and The Bionic Woman, back in those days. He must have loved that. You know, for a working actor to be on 2 hit primetime shows playing the same roles, very unique, very cool. But Oscar confessed in that final Bionic Woman episode that he's in love with Jamie Summers, the Bionic Woman, and he's her boss. That's like sexual harassment, right? Like, he goes, Jamie, I love you. And there was a real emotional scene. She hugs him, she's crying, and it was actually a cool scene in that final episode, On the Run. She becomes a fugitive. The OSI decides to do some experiments on her, and she says, "The hell you say," and takes off, and she becomes a fugitive. The $6 Million Man had already been canceled at that point in time by May 13th, 78. It was canceled by ABC on March 6, 1978, with the final episode, The Moving Mountain. So I think that's why they kind of wrote, kind of a closing episode of The Bionic Woman, because they knew the writing was on the wall and NBC was going to cancel it. Both shows started on ABC, and then eventually ABC canceled The Bionic Woman and NBC picked it up. So in the last seasons of $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman, there were no more crossovers like they had before when they were on the same network for obvious reasons. But that was a really good final episode, I thought, the Bionic Woman. But they returned in TV movies starting May 17th, 1987, with the return of the $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman on NBC. And Martin Landau was in it, one of my favorite actors whom I met on set some years ago. Got a picture with him. He was super nice. Had lunch with him, right next to him, talked with him. He was just such a nice guy, and a friendly guy. And he was working on a biopic at the time for Lifetime about Anna Nicole Smith, and he played the old millionaire dude in the wheelchair that she married. Anyway, getting on with these Bionic Woman reunions, Sandra Bullock got her first big role in a Bionic Woman $6 Million Man reunion called The Bionic Showdown that aired April 30th, 1989 on NBC. And then on another network, CBS, Bionic Breakdown was what the script was titled, that later became Bionic Ever After, where Jamie Summers and Steve Austin finally got married in Bionic Ever After in 1994. And that reminds me, to do press for that, Lindsay Wagner was on Mike and Maddie, which was the show that preceded The View on ABC, same time slot, same thing. When Mike and Maddie got canceled, The View started, like in 1997, I believe. But she was on in 1994 to promote this. And who else was on there was Ellen DeGeneres. And Ellen DeGeneres, she's got all this bad press now for being a jerk. And she was a jerk back then. She makes fun of Lindsay Wagner and basically implies that she's old. I could play the clip. I have it on tape. I recorded it back then, and I still have it. And I didn't pull that clip, but she's a real ass, Ellen DeGeneres, even back then. I guess she was promoting her show, These Friends of Mine, which was on ABC at the time. So I knew way back when that Ellen DeGeneres was no good. Now, there was not really a final episode of Bewitched, but there was like a what if episode in season 4 called I Confess, where the world learned that Samantha Stevens is a witch. It wasn't really, it was kind of like a dream sequence kind of thing. And it was real sad because like the family, including Tabitha, get scooped up by the military and thrown on a military outpost. And they're going to conduct experiments on her and stuff like that. But the episode's called I Confess from season 4. Don't have a clip, but season 4, episode 22 was kind of like a what if final episode of Bewitched. But it was sad. Now, I Dream of Jeannie did have a final episode. This is the last episode ever made of the original show. And Dr. Alfred Bellows learned that Jeannie is a genie in that episode. It's called Hurricane Jeannie. It was the last episode filmed, but it wasn't the last one that aired. This is what I hate when networks air things out of order. It really sucks because, and the reason they air them out of order is for what's called sweeps weeks, which is typically in November and February, where they can charge more ad dollars based on ratings. So there's a heavy concentration of high quality episodes that they want to air during sweeps weeks period so that they get more money from the advertisers. So what they did was, all right, let me play a clip of the last I Dream of Jeannie that was filmed, Hurricane Jeannie, real quick. This is where the bottle is smashed and the world learns, Alfred Bellows learns that Jeannie is a real genie. And here's a quick clip of that.
I must admit, Major, that your explanations were extraordinarily clever. I'll resign my commission, of course, sir. Jeannie and I go away where we're not known, start life all over again. What a waste to the space program. I'd rather be married to Jeannie than be an astronaut, sir.
Oh, Anthony.
Call me Master. Jeannie, I always thought that you were a charming and wonderful girl, a perfect wife for Major Nelson. Magic or no, I see no reason why I should change my opinion.
Thank you, Dr. Bellows.
Major Nelson, all things being considered, and I mean all things, it's been a great honor and a pleasure working with you. Good luck. Oh, excuse me. You better get some sleep.
Good night, darling Anthony.
Master.
That's how it would have ended. But the network made a last-minute change, and they made it be a dream sequence. But that was originally how I Dream of Jeannie was going to end, with the secret and the cat being let out of the bottle that Jeannie is a genie. But the network, even though it was the last one filmed, you could see they're kind of saying their goodbyes as actors. You know, it's been a pleasure working with you, blah, blah, blah. And the bottle is destroyed. It's dropped on a table and smashes into 1,000 pieces. But the network chose to air My Master, the Chili King, a terrible episode. So I've got to put this as the worst, one of the worst final episodes of all time. My Master, the Chili King, aired on May 26, 1970. It was just awful. I won't even describe it. It's not worth the time. And then I Dream of Jeannie came back in Jeannie 15 years later on October 20th, 1985. But what sucked about this was that Wayne Rogers played Major Anthony Nelson instead of Larry Hagman, because Larry was a big, highly paid star of Dallas at that point in time for some many years, since 1978, like we already discussed, as I discussed previously. So Wayne Rogers is best known as being in MASH. I think he played Trapper in the first few seasons of MASH, and he was also a financial guy. He's gone now. He's deceased, and he had like a thick New York accent. But he's best known for MASH, and he was on the Fox Business Network later in life, right before his demise. But it was awful. It just didn't have the same chemistry that Larry Hagman and Barbara Eden had on I Dream of Jeannie. And then there was another reunion movie called I Still Dream of Jeannie, which aired again on October 20th, same date as the one in 1985, October 20th, 1991. Again, no Larry Hagman. But they did all reunite on the Donnie Marie talk show in 1999. And this aired November 19th, 1999. And I want to play, this is really cool because one of the two stars had not seen each other since 1970. And that's Bill Daly, who played Major Healy. Gosh, I can't think today. And he's reunited with Larry Hagman. And of course, he went on to be on the Bob Newhart show. And we'll talk about Newhart's final episode in a little bit. But this is kind of a cool emotional reunion between these guys, these actors and friends who hadn't seen each other since 1970. And this is on the Donnie and Marie talk show. Let me go ahead and I got to skip ahead to the precise moment. I should have edited this better. Let's see. Let me skip ahead. All right, here we go. Let me get this to go. Awkward. Here comes Bill Daly. Hey, Major Healy.
Wow. Larry, you look great, man. You do too, Bill. I thought you were dead. I'm so surprised. Didn't miss it by much, I'll tell you that. Wow, what a break. Working with those two, Bill. Oh, I don't know. I was... by the way, I got to confess one thing. Yes. About when they did the thing with the elephant, yeah, and I was backstage, I was the one that broke wind.
They played a clip of an elephant. They said farted on the set.
Yeah, it was a terrible thing. Wow, this is exciting. Larry, I think it's been about 30 years.
Yeah, I think maybe. Sure. I said 20 because I can't remember how long it was, but you know, 30 years, that's about right.
Yeah, 30 years. But
does it bring
you
back
always look beautiful.
thank
you.
Well,
you know.
Can I just say one thing? I'm sitting here looking at you guys. Isn't it nice to know that casts actually got along? Yeah. It's so great to know that love existed that you saw on television, that you all like each other.
Oh, yeah.
It really is so great.
I only wish Hayden Rourke was here because he was a catalyst for us all, really. Yeah, he kept us all going, you know, when we'd blow up or do something silly. He'd say, now, calm down, you're working. It's good to be working no matter what, you know, all that kind of stuff.
He was the nicest man.
Yeah.
Do you realize the impact that your show is making? I mean, you mentioned TV Land's Screen Gems network is now going to be airing it. I think they're airing it right now. But
TV Land has it like every hour, don't they?
Yeah, but now Screen Gems is going to have it. Screen Gem Network.
Did you ever get jealous that he had the genie and you didn't?
No, I had the genie. He did.
All the time.
I like my part. Get the genie, take the money. You know what? I look at those things. They're wonderful. And by the way, I forgot to tell you, I talked to my son today. It was his birthday, and he did primary colors with you. And said you were the best thing in it.
Right,
and
that's
he
right.
said, and I saw it, and you were brilliant. Did you see Primary Colors?
Yes.
He was the best thing in it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, brother.
We asked them about, you know, favorite scenes and things. Do you have a favorite scene, something that you remember that stood out that was fun or funny or
Well, you know, I
crazy?
liked the show before, at the beginning when I didn't know there was a genie. And that was a better, no, I'm serious, that was a better comedy thing for me because I didn't know what was going on. Once I knew there was a genie, that was a different kind of take on it. But
Well,
I liked that
I'm
one.
sure there were a few shows, but there was
Then I
one
got
show
greedy.
that I loved was the one where you had to go and say you loved.
Yeah, talk to her. You asked me in prison, I guess she disappeared, and I didn't know what was going on. That she was a genie. You asked me to go and talk to the walls because it was to talk to her. Do you remember that one? No, it was my favorite.
We have the clip.
Oh, really?
Right behind you.
Oh, well, then I'm leaving. That's it for me. I'm out.
Hi, I'm Roger Healy. Tony sent me.
You want to tell you that he was in trouble and that he needs you, and he's very fond of you, and that you're hurting
He's
him
talking
deeply.
into the bottle.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
So great.
If you really could have a genie, is there a wish that you would want?
No, not really. I mean, my doctor warned me about too much happiness, you know. I mean, I'm so dumb. I've just been happy all the time. I mean, just really. And the only time I've had a good marriage for 10 years, hell, it was a good marriage. And he's wonderful. You're like, no. What am I saying? No, that's silly. No. But you know what's so great
Well, now
about
there
that
are gay
show?
marriages.
After that show, I did Newhart for years. And
Yes.
Yeah,
The
thank
pilot, you were so good.
By the way, you must tell everybody what you named your dog.
Bob. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob. That's the name of
Because that
your
was
dog.
your cliche line was, hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob. Actually, it was a drink after that, I think, hi, Bob. But I want to get back to working with Larry. After doing that show and doing like 400 shows after that, I thought that's the way everyone worked, you know, because Larry, what would happen, we would do a scene, and we'd make it up, and they'd let us just work it out, and then when they'd light it, Larry would take a set, and we'd go it like 20 or 30 times. Jack Riley would said walking into a set like us in a show was like falling out of your car on the freeway. I mean, it's like, wow, you know. So we'd rehearse it 20 or 30 times. Now, Newhart never rehearsed ever. I mean, he's the nicest guy, but no, you go in at 10 and you leave at 11. And that character, you know, but it worked for him not to rehearse, and he's a genius and the nicest guy in the world. But from then on, I never, ever got to work. Larry's the greatest actor I ever worked with in my life, and I mean that without crying right now. I mean,
You know what I
but
find
I didn't know it
absolutely-
then, but I just didn't know it then. I didn't do anything in my life. I didn't know where to stand. I couldn't read. I'm a dyslexic. I had all kinds of problems, and they put up with me. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But you didn't
tough.
let people know that for a
Well,
long
I had
time.
to memorize it, and that was tough. And when I get those long scenes, but they just put up. I don't know how I got the show. I still don't know. I was like man in uniform.
Maybe because
in
you
the
were
back.
funny?
Oh, no.
Yeah, you were.
I only had one line at the
You know,
beginning.
Larry,
Oh, my God, no.
since you mentioned Larry's acting abilities, how long did you play JR?
13 years.
13 years. Yeah. You know,
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You were JR? Oh, wow. Oh, man. That's great, Larry. Oh, you were good. Wow. Oh, man. Oh,
you know what's amazing? What I read the other day, that over in Romania, that they have put up a monument in your honor. Is that right? Do you know about this?
No. They put up a replica of South Fork. That's what they did.
Oh, is that?
Yeah. But what happened was over there, the dictator allowed 3 hours of television on per day, 2 hours of him speaking, and 1 hour of Dallas, because he wanted to show the decadence of the American way of life. And everybody said, I want that. And they took him out and they shot him. You know, I mean, that's really what happened.
They wanted Dallas.
They wanted Dallas and everything Dallas represented, all that corruption. And they got that now.
Well, they did the same thing when they shot JR.
Yeah, right.
We got a lot more we want to talk about. We're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, more of the cast of I Dream of Jeannie right after this.
And they also had Sidney Sheldon, who created I Dream of Jeannie, on as a guest. But his voice, I think he had throat cancer. His voice was really, really, really rough in that. But that's a good interview. I mean, it may not seem all that exciting, but you really have to see it. It's not that exciting to listen to, but I think it's interesting. But it's on YouTube. And just look up Donnie Marie Osmond Talk Show, I Dream of Jeannie, 30-year reunion. The whole thing, I think, is very good. I really liked it a lot. So moving on my list here of good and bad finales. got to talk about another one that June mentioned in our Facebook comments, MASH. The MASH finale. That was a powerhouse on CBS and the most consistently well-written and acted and directed primetime. I can't call it a sitcom. I was about to say a shitcom. It's definitely not that. Sitcom, easy for me to say. But it was a dramedy, you know? I mean, it had very serious moments like McLean Stevenson, when his character went down in that helicopter and Radar reacted to that. That was so moving, and he was so dumb to quit the show. Allegedly, McLean Stevenson quit MASH. My God, and it went on to be, like after season 3, I think it was. And it went on to last 11 seasons, and everything McLean did after that failed. I think the most successful thing he did after that was Hello, Larry, which was a spinoff of Different Strokes, where he played a DJ out in Oregon State with 2 daughters. Kim Richards played one of them, who is Paris Hilton's aunt. And on our Facebook group, The Nostalgic Podblast, I posted a vintage photo of Kim Richards with that little factoid that she's Paris Hilton's aunt. And then, of course, her sister, Kylie, was in the original Halloween movie. And they've all been in the Housewives of Beverly Hills and whatnot. But getting back to MASH. Of course, it was based on the Robert Altman movie that was released January 25th, 1970, with Elliot Gould, and the original Hot Lips, who was not played by Loretta Swit, but in the movie it was Sally Kellerman who played Hot Lips. And the finale aired February 28th, 1983, and it broke, as I mentioned previously, the Who Shot JR ratings record from November 21st, 1980. So here's a little bit of the end of MASH.
With one exception. For me, music was always a refuge from this miserable experience. And now it will always be a reminder.
So I'm going to stay in nursing, but I want to be in maternity or pediatrics. After all this, I think it would be nice to help bring people into the world.
I want to be an officer, so I'm going to try and get into OCS.
Then I'm going to be the best darn nurse Oklahoma's ever seen.
Well, for the next few days, I'll be helping with the consolidation of the 8063rd. And then after a little furlough, I'll be going on to my next assignment.
Tokyo, right? Wrong. Belgium.
You're both wrong.
Klinger.
I've always looked to my father for guidance. When he makes up his mind about something, he does it no matter what anybody says. And that's what I'm going to do. What I've wanted to do all along. Work in the States in a hospital. There's a lot of my father in me. It's never been his way to tell people how he feels about them. So I guess that's why I never told my nursing staff what I told other people about you. It's been an honor and a privilege to have worked with you. And I'm very, very proud.
And I'll miss the checks.
Well, I planned something, but it kind of fell through.
Jimmy Forrest Klinger.
I guess you noticed Soon Lee isn't here tonight. It's because she had a lot of things to take care of. Because we've decided to get married. I had to cut through a lot of red tape, but I got permission. The only problem is she won't leave Korea until she finds her family. So, boy, I don't believe I'm saying this. I'm staying in Korea.
You don't have to act crazy now. We're all getting out.
Here's how I figure it. If you love somebody, you got nothing but trouble. So you either stop loving them, or you love them a whole lot more. You know, that's very profound. But the first thing I'm going to do is have a wedding ceremony with my family.
I thought you weren't going back to Toledo.
No, I mean with this family, with you guys. We can do it tomorrow before everybody goes. Colonel, would you be our best man? I'd be honored, son.
Dragnet.
Here's to the happy
Harry
couple.
Morgan.
May they have a long, wonderful life filled with love and peace. And so may we all.
Amen.
Just a really good finale. And a fantastic show, of course. And just, I don't think there'll ever be another MASH. Not on network TV. I mean, there's some good shows on Netflix, but and on Showtime, but I just think MASH was one of a kind. Now, getting back to sci-fi, The Incredible Hulk. Got to talk about this final episode. The Incredible Hulk began as a movie of the week on CBS on November 4th, 1977, directed and written by Kenneth Johnson, who was adapting the Stan Lee created Marvel Comics character, who was a monster at first when he was introduced in 1962 in the comic books, and he was gray in the first issue. Then they made him green in issue 2. But it was interesting. The network executives at CBS thought the name Bruce Banner, the Hulk's alter ego, was too feminine. So they changed it to David Bruce Banner, or David Banner. You only saw Bruce in the pilot on his tombstone. As you may know, he had to fake his own death and become a fugitive, evading not Lieutenant Philip Gerard in The Fugitive, but Jack Colvin's character, Jack McGee, with the National Register, like a National Enquirer reporter who was following every lead he could find on an appearance of the Incredible Hulk. And he would transform twice per episode. And I remember when season 4 rolled around, they tried to jazz up the ratings with the ladies, and they ripped Lou Ferrigno's pants higher into the inner thigh. I'm serious. I read an article about this. It was a definite intentional ploy. And then they lost the shirt and everything. They wanted to show that guy's muscles. But in the first Incredible Hulk, Richard Kiel was cast to play the creature. Do you know who Richard Kiel is? Kiel? He was Jaws in The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker, the James Bond movies. And there's one shot that still remains from the pilot where the Hulk is really trying to save a little girl. It's kind of a takeoff on Frankenstein with the girl and the daisies at the lake. Well, in the Hulk pilot, there's a girl that's fishing with her dad, and her dad shoots the Hulk. And right before he's shot, you see a bird's eye view shot of the creature, and that's Richard Kiel. And you can see he doesn't have that many muscles. He's in the makeup. It's overhead. You have to know where to look for it, but that's the only shot. They had to reshoot all those scenes with Lou Ferrigno because they wanted a little more muscle. So after the first movie aired, November 4th, 1977, there was a second movie that aired November 27th, 77, called Death in the Family. Then it became a regular series because the ratings were so strong for both of those movies of the week on CBS, and became a regular series on March 10th, 1978. Now, the regular series ended with a terrible episode on May 12th, 1982, titled A Minor Problem, where David Banner goes to a town and there's nobody there. It's deserted. So he doesn't know what the hell's going on. He can't find anyone. It's just an empty, empty town, kind of like the Twilight Zone pilot, Where Is Everybody?, starring Earl Holliman, 1959. Similar to that, and similar to the first regular episode of The $6 Million Man titled Population Zero, which aired January 18th, 1974. But getting back to the Hulk, that last episode was just really, really bad, and it didn't tie up the loose ends because CBS just canceled the Hulk. And the 5th season only had like 5 or 6 episodes. But they brought back the Hulk. NBC brought it back in 1988, May 22nd, 1988, with The Incredible Hulk Returns, and they introduced the character of Thor in that movie. And the ratings were massive for NBC, so the following year, they had another movie of the week, revival of The Incredible Hulk, called Trial of the Incredible Hulk. I'm going somewhere with this, folks. Trust me. And the Trial of the Incredible Hulk introduced the character of Daredevil. And but here's where I'm going with this. On February 18th, 1990, NBC had aired the death of the Incredible Hulk. And I've talked about this in the Podblast. I don't like this ending, where David Banner is transformed into the Hulk on a jet, and the jet explodes, and the Hulk is floating in the air, and he falls to his death. He crashes into the parking lot of the airport because the plane had just taken off before it was blown up. And he has a love interest, of course, David Banner. He's always was smooth with the ladies, and she's holding his hand as he's slowly reverting back to Dr. David Banner. And she goes, "Don't die, David. We could be free." And he says, "I am free." and then the theme plays. Do, 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 do. It was really kind of sad, I think. But I want to play a little trailer. Here's a promo for the death of the Incredible. That was a good final, but sad final episode. Here's a piece by Mary Hart in Entertainment Tonight about
call it a Hulk out,
the
the
death of
transformation of David Banner into that famous man-beast, the Incredible Hulk. But this may be the last time you'll see it happen, because after 12 years, Bill Bixby as Banner and Lou Ferrigno as Hulk have reached the end.
As we see, the Hulk dies, and of course David Banner dies. It gives me goose pimples talking about it. You know, I want to cry on the show, you know.
In the movie, doctors discover a secret formula that causes the transformations. Terrorists beat the doctor in hopes of getting the formula, and the Hulk is pursued.
It's one of my most favorite Hulk outs in the 12 years that we have ever done it, and it's the first one in the movie. And I don't want to give it away, but I can tell you that this was not made by a Chevy.
At 38, the former Mr. Universe believes he knows the answer to the show's long-lasting appeal.
Every one of us has a little Hulk inside of us. And when we see in this show the Hulk go through brick wall, it's something you and I wish we can do. You know, you get to an argument with your husband and wife, and you say, damn it, you want to go through the wall? The Hulk does it. So it's like a release.
The door jam, everything is going to blow out.
Bill Bixby is also the movie's director, but no
Shot in
matter
Canada,
how hard you prepare,
Vancouver.
even the best directors can't make everything right.
Take it, Lou.
Finally, critics of the show may be happy to see the end of the Hulk. Even Bixby confesses that he was a bit snobby about being asked to star in the series years ago, but says that now, after all the success, something obviously worked.
Well, yeah, it definitely worked. And Bill Bixby.
There was a title card that I put at the beginning of the pilot.
Yeah. That's Kenneth Johnson, the director and writer of the pilot of the Hulk. He wanted to make the Hulk red, by the way. I've talked with him at conventions and stuff, and he told me, had dinner with him, by the way. Really nice guy, and he loves his wife very much. He's in a very, very happy marriage. Anyway, with Susie, and she's really nice too. But he said he wanted to make the character red because he says red is the color of rage. It's the color of war, like Mars, bringer of war. And Stan Lee and Marvel said, no, got to be green. He goes, but green is the color of envy. It doesn't make sense. But, brother, it is what it is. The Hulk is green, like Kermit the Frog. He just, he shouldn't have wanted to make him red, but I understand why he wanted to. And here's another quick, I just love that death of the Hulk, because in the story, he is cured. There is a cure that's discovered. Here's the original NBC Movie of the Week trailer for the death of the Incredible Hulk. And I'm playing this intro because it's very nostalgic to me.
And now, the second half of an NBC Sunday double feature.
For 12 years,
Put your hands behind your head!
I've battled the beast within me, and I want to destroy it and be human again. At last, my fight for freedom is over.
But if he destroys the Incredible Hulk, will he also destroy David Banner?
There is a chance I can rid you of this thing.
And now, NBC presents a world premiere event.
Please, no!
The end of a superhero legend. The death of the Incredible Hulk.
Death of the Incredible Hulk. I highly recommend it. But these NBC owns those clips, so you can't find it that easily. I think it's going to be on the NBC streaming service. That's probably where it is, but I'm not sure about that. But that was a big show, and I remember, God, just in 5th grade and then even in high school on Halloween dressing up as the Hulk with like food coloring, like permanently inking my skin, and I won like, just, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. But it was like a contest when I was a junior in high school for best Halloween costume. And it was just like candy. It wasn't a cash prize or anything. But I remember everybody in that gym when I came out with the ripped jeans, and the assistant principal, by the way, said, you just destroyed a $100 pair of jeans. You know how much that cost in Russia? Larry Whaley, he's like, I mean, it was just a hard-ass assistant principal. And I got in a lot of trouble in school, so he knew me well. And, man, he just would always bust my balls a little bit. And he just couldn't believe that I tore up these jeans. And I said, no, these were old jeans. Mind your own business, man. Anyway, but I got back at him, little inside baseball. I called up all these cheerleaders. Back then, when I was in high school, they had a phone directory, and I called up cheerleaders and did a prank as Larry Whaley. I did an impression of him, and I recorded it. And I said, I got to report your daughter was smoking in the East Wing. Now, either the smoking stops or the cheerleading will. And I remember one poor girl's crying in the background, and as I'm on the phone doing this prank, punking this poor innocent girl's parents, she's going, I don't even smoke. Anyway, what an ass I was back then. Anyway, but it was hilarious. You had to hear it. The Whaley tapes is what I call them. But anyway, so that's the Incredible Hulk. Now, I just want to briefly touch on the $6 Million Man when it comes to bad final episodes. The Moving Mountain was the last regular episode of $6 Million Man, aired in 1978, as I talked about previously on ABC. It was just, the series didn't end. It didn't go anywhere. It was a bad episode. So thankfully they did those reunion movies I talked about when they brought it back. But it started, by the way, as a movie of the week called Moon in the Desert. And that aired, let's see, I can't even remember. It aired in 1973, I believe. That was the first $6 Million Man pilot. And then there was a second one. Let's see. The first one aired, March 7th, 1973. The Moon in the Desert. That's where Steve Austin has his accident, and he has to be reconstructed with bionic electronic limbs. And then the second movie, which I like, it was kind of like a take on James Bond. It's called Wine, Women, and War, and it had a future Bond girl, Britt Eklund, in it. And they had an opening song. They tried to make it like a James Bond song, and it was pretty bad, by Dusty Springfield. And the show creator, who adapted it from the novel Cyborg by Martin Caidin, Glenn Larson, wrote this song. And here's a little bit of the opening to the second movie of $6 Million Man, and it's called Wine, Women, and War. It's not the typical opening you remember from the show, that strong drum beat. We can rebuild him. We have the technology. This is a little bit different. It's just showing scenes from the first movie that you've seen. They re-edited in the regular opening credits where it shows his accident.
Steve, what is it? What's wrong? I was hoping you could tell me. He's alive. He lost an arm, 2 legs, and 1 eye, but he's alive.
I'm not sure he'd want to live if he can't be the man he was.
What if he could be more than the man he was? We have the technology to rebuild him. I want it done no matter what the cost.
Is that where the expression "you the man" came from? I don't know. It might be. We got some comments on Facebook, and yes, I have a good one. I might want to save this in case this person wants to call in. But yeah, that song was pretty bad, by Dusty Springfield. She's the one who sang it, and Glenn Larson wrote those lyrics. We got another one. Well, I'll just go ahead and talk about it. The Sopranos, a very controversial final episode. Either you liked it or you hated it. There's no middle ground. Most people hated it. Didn't like the way it ended with Steve Perry, and it just didn't. I thought it was kind of strange the way it ended, as most people do think as well. I don't have a clip for that, but The Sopranos, or Suckpranos, as one of my friends calls it, which I think is ridiculous. I think it was a phenomenal show. Although, when you think about it, and this is actually good casting, you know, most of the actors in that are not attractive. That's the only show where I don't think any of the main cast are attractive in The Sopranos. They're really not. But I guess that's typical of mob movies, like the Scorsese movies. They typically don't have anyone that's attractive, and that's probably by design, to show the ugliness of what these people do to people by killing them, and it's a bad business out there. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want a contract on my ass just talking about it. But The Sopranos, God, that's got to be, I got to put that in the bad finale category. Now, there was another show that had a bad ending. It didn't really have an ending at all. And that is Battlestar Galactica. It debuted September 17th, 1978 as a 3-hour movie a week. And it had really good music by Stu Phillips, who I think is an underrated composer. I'll just talk as we play some of the theme. But I remember being like 7 years old when it debuted, and I had to beg my parents to let me stay up till 11 o'clock to watch the whole thing. But it never had an ending. They did try a second season, and they called it Galactica 1980, where Galactica finally did find Earth. But it was just a terrible, terrible ending to a show. But there was a final episode which had nothing to do with the main story with Starbuck. It was called The Return of Starbuck, where he's stranded on an asteroid with a Cylon raider. And it's kind of like Enemy Mine. And he sort of tinkers with the Cylon electronically to try to change its programming, because they were a reptilian race that made machines to do their chores for them, and then the machines took over and they started exterminating mankind. That's the original concept of the Cylons. So the Cylons are programmed to kill all human life and all living creatures so they can be the ultimate masters of the universe. And it started really good, and then the show just fizzled out. And I'm going to talk about it in greater detail next week when we talk about shows that only lasted 1 or 2 seasons for our 2nd anniversary Pod Blast. That's going to be our topic, is great shows that should have lasted longer, that only lasted 1 or 2 years max. And Battlestar Galactica is one of them, so I don't want to go into too much detail now, except to say it did not have a good final episode. Although they did find Earth eventually in the premiere of Galactica 1980, but they dumbed it down. They wanted it to be an educational show so they could air it on Sunday night at 7 o'clock. There's different rules back then by the censors, so they had to make it very kid-friendly. And they did definitely dumb down those stories. So that's Battlestar Galactica. But I'll never forget that 3-hour epic. Now, Charlie's Angels. Charlie's Angels didn't have a very good finale, although they finally got to meet Charlie, who was voiced by the legendary John Forsythe, who was on Dynasty, I call it. Dynasty at the time, which had just started as Charlie's Angels was ending. And John Forsythe had worked with one of the stars, John Derrick's ex-wife, Linda Evans, in the 1950s, and Bachelor Father. But anyway, Charlie's Angels began as a movie of the week on ABC TV, and that movie aired March 21st, 1976, with Farrah Fawcett, Kate Jackson, and the one that a lot of my friends growing up always liked Jacqueline Smith the best, and she's the only actor that lasted the whole run. I got a couple interesting facts about the cast. Kate Jackson quit the show because she was so mad that she would not be released from her contract to do a movie called Kramer versus Kramer. And she was going to play the role that Meryl Streep played. But originally, the producers wanted Kate Jackson, and it was allegedly written, that part, for Kate Jackson. But the producers, I guess Aaron Spelling, wouldn't let her do it. And she was so pissed, she didn't renew her contract and left the show. And then she was replaced by Shelley Hack. Kind of like me, a hack. No, I was kidding. But Charlie's Angels, I want to play a little bit of the last episode of Charlie's Angels, which I think was a terrible, terrible final episode. Here's a quick clip if I can get it to go. Still learning this board. There we go. They think Kelly's going to die. She's been shot in the face. And they think that she's not going to make it. Okay, and she's had all these, and she had all of these procedures. And Cheryl Ladd's in the scene, and Tanya Roberts, and David Doyle as Bosley.
Miss Garrett is asking to see you. See ya. Damnedest thing. It looked like we'd lost her. I thought she had an embolism, but we'd given her heavy anticoagulants, and I guess it cleared. Anyway, except for a few days' discomfort, she'll be good as new. Now, if you'll excuse us...
It just shows Charlie. He removed his mask, and he reveals himself.
Oh, Doctor, you are most gratefully excused. Thank you.
So it didn't end. It ended kind of with a whimper, not with a bang. No pun intended. It just wasn't a very good ending, except that they finally got to see what Charlie looked like, which everybody already knew in the audience. They knew it was John Forsythe, that recognizable voice. Let's see. Oh, I want to play an ad that Shelley Hack did. This is what got her noticed. She was doing ads that a lot of you may remember that are older in the audience for Charlie. This was a fragrance, and like Charlie's Angels, very basic. Listen to this jingle that you may remember that Shelley Hack starred in. These commercials for Charlie.
There's a fragrance that's here today, and they call it Charlie. A different fragrance that thinks your way, yeah, they call it Charlie. Kinda young, kinda now, Charlie. Kinda free, kinda wow, Charlie. Kind of fragrance that's gonna stay, and it's here now, Charlie.
Charlie by Revlon, a most original fragrance.
Charlie and Chaz, Chaz and Charlie. Wherever there's one, there's the other. Here's why. For just $2, you can get a bottle of Charlie
Cheap
perfume
stuff.
spray. If you buy $4 worth of anything Chaz, anything, you know Charlie. Get to know Chaz, the clean, gutsy, classic fragrance that smells the way you want a man to smell. Wherever there's Charlie, there's going to be a Chaz, too.
Hey, I got you something.
Get this special Revlon offer now at Hudson's Men's Bar.
So that's how Shelley Hack was cast in Charlie's Angels, by doing that stupid commercial. I shouldn't say stupid. It was kind of a catchy little tune at the time, but I haven't thought about Charlie in years till I started doing prep for today's Pod Blast. So let's see. Moving on my list here. And yeah, Tanya Roberts, who just died, rest in peace. And yeah, she was really, really attractive, and it's just too bad that that all these people that we love, these icons, are passing away as we all get older. You know, it's really, really sad. And I don't want to jinx this, but I'm so glad that Bob Barker's still alive. And I hope he continues on. He's getting up there, and supposedly he's wheelchair ridden, but I think I think he was the best MC of all time, Bob Barker. Now let's talk about Gilligan's Island, which began on CBS. It had a weird pilot, by the way, with different cast members. They did a lot of heavy recasting on Gilligan's Island. But Gilligan's Island began on CBS on September 26, 1964, with the debut episode 2 on a Raft. And the last episode aired April 17, 1967, a horrible, horrible final episode. This is in my list of bad endings, and it was called Gilligan the Goddess, where he's like in drag. And it was just really, really bad. However, this is one of the shows like The Incredible Hulk that got a second chance. They had a series of movies on NBC, a different network that aired Gilligan's Island. And they debuted in 1978 on October 14th and 21st. It was like a two-part movie, 1978. Rescue from Gilligan's Island debuted. The only problem was there was a fake Ginger played by Judith Baldwin instead of Tina Louise. She replaced Tina Louise. So I got a little bit from the Rescue from Gilligan's Island. Let's see. And it has a little bit of the classic theme that we all remember.
Sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic port aboard this tiny ship. The mate was a mighty sailing man, the skipper brave and sure. 5 passengers set sail that day for a 3-hour tour. A hour tour. But when they started getting rough, the tiny ship was tossed. If not for the courage of the fearless crew, the minnow would be lost. The minnow would be lost. The ship's aground on the shore of this uncharted desert isle, with Gilligan, the skipper too, a millionaire and his wife, the movie star, the professor and Mary Ann, here on Gilligan's Island.
So how did they get rescued? Well, they tied their huts together and went out to sea, and supposedly that's how they were rescued from Gilligan's Island. And here's a little quick, like 20-second NBC promo spot.
The ships stake out a neighborhood and find that trouble comes in small packages.
Hey, slow down and stop! I can't!
Then all your favorites are back in a brand new movie.
They're at sea. Maybe we can be rescued.
Rescue from Gilligan's Island. Bob Denver and members of the original Gilligan cast. Saturday on NBC.
And it was a big success, Rescue from Gilligan's Island. So they did another movie a year later, and then that aired. Castaways on Gilligan's Island aired on NBC May 3rd, 79, and then the awful Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island, which BK mentioned, Barry King on BK on the Air not too long ago. I heard him talking about it. That aired May 15th, 1981, and it had Martin Landau and Barbara Bain acting together again for the first time since Space 1999 was canceled in 1977. And it was just really bad. They had like this robot that could play basketball, and it sucked. It was just a terrible, terrible movie. So Gilligan's Island really had a bad ending all around. If you count the movie revival, Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island, and the last regular episode, Gilligan's Island really didn't get its due. Now, the Brady Bunch. The Brady Bunch has an interesting bit of history. It debuted September 26, 1969 on ABC with the pilot episode, The Honeymoon. And you've seen it, the cat chases the dog, or the dog chases the cat, and it gets in the cake, and blah, blah, blah. Blended family. Well, the last episode aired March 8, 1974, titled The Harebrained Scheme, where Greg's hair turns orange, which would probably be popular now, but it was just a terrible, terrible final episode. And they introduced Cousin Oliver, played by Robbie Rist, and a lot of people say that was like the touch of doom for that show. And there's even like Jump the Shark with Fonzie we talked about earlier, I talked about. You have the Cousin Oliver moment of a show where they add a new character. Like for 8 is Enough, it might have been Ralph Macchio's character, Jeremy, in the final 5th season, just like Brady Bunch lasted 5 seasons. However, the Brady Bunch got a second chance. They brought it back in the form of a terrible variety show called the Brady Bunch Variety Hour. And I think it lasted 8 episodes. It was produced by Sid and Marty Krofft, who had done Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, Electra Woman and Dinah Girl, and Donnie and Marie, the classic Donnie and Marie variety show. They had a lot of highly rated variety shows at that point in time in the 70s. So the Brady Bunch Variety Hour, it's so bad they can't sing. It had all the original cast except Jan. Eve Plum, she didn't come back. Another actor, Jerry Ryan, I think's her name. No. Who played her? Well, I'm going to play a clip. It'll talk about her in the opening, but listen to this bad disco music that they're singing. Here we go. It's so stupid. This is the first episode. Music sucks.
You got the cutest little baby face. There's not a
can't take it. I can't take it. I can't do this. I can't take it. It's so freaking stupid and bad. But I do have another clip I want to play just to demonstrate how awful the show is or was. And it was Jerry Reichel who replaced Eve Plum as Jan Brady. She just wouldn't do it. She was probably the most sense of all of them. Let's see here if I can play this for you guys. Just want to play another bad song that they sang. Here we go. This is the 8th episode. This is the disco dancing Brady Bunch. It sucks.
The Brady Bunch Hour.
Ernie Anderson.
Florence Henderson and Robert Reed. Maureen McCormick and Barry Williams. Jerry Rochelle and Chris Knight. And Susan Olsen and Mike Lookinland. With guest stars, the What's Happening Kid. Rick Taylor. Rick Dees.
Rick Dees.
Also starring Ann B. Davis.
Get ready, 'cause here I come. Get ready, 'cause here I come. Fiddly-dee, fiddly-dum. Look out, baby, 'cause here I come. Get ready, 'cause here I come. Never met a girl who makes me feel the way that you do. It's alright. Whenever I'm asked to make my dreams real, I say that you do. You're out of sight. Fiddly-dee, fiddly-dum. Look out, baby, 'cause here I come. And I'm bringing you the love that's true. So get ready, so get ready. I'm gonna try to make love to you. So get ready, so get ready. Here I come. Get ready, 'cause here I come. Get ready, 'cause here I come. If you want to play hide and seek with love, they remind you
It's all right.
the loving you're gonna miss anytime they find you.
It's out of sight.
Fiddly-dee, fiddly-dum. Look out, baby, 'cause here I come. And I'm bringing you a love that's true. So get ready, so get ready. I'm gonna try to make love to you. So get ready, so get ready. Here I come. Here we go again.
They got these chicks that are jumping into a damn swimming pool. That's what's going on. And they're under the swimming pool with a bunch of rings like hula hoops. This is the ultimate cheese right here. Anyway, I'm just going to fast forward to a little bit of the quote-unquote comedy. But that's really them singing. That's Barry Williams and Florence Henderson, who is an accomplished singer and has talent. It's just, that's why it lasted 8 weeks. Even in 1976, this was trash. You know what's really bad is Robert Reed, who played Mike Brady. He's trying to disco dance and stuff. You got to look this up on YouTube. The Brady Bunch Variety Hour.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Brady Bunch.
Let's listen to some of this.
Hello, America, and get ready, because here we come.
Yes, sir. I think what the mother of my children is trying to say is, welcome back to another Brady Bunch Hour.
60 minutes of songs and swimming with America's wettest family.
America's wettest family?
That's right, we have the Croftettes. But don't worry, it's not contagious.
But our doctor says if you do catch a croftet, stay in bed and drink plenty of
Peter
water,
Brady.
Polly.
Christopher
Hold
Knight.
it, guys. People probably don't even know what you're talking about. The Croftets and the Waterfollies are the dancers and the swimmers on the show.
Yes, 8 very talented young ladies who not only dance to your favorite tune, they do the backstroke to it.
Wait a minute. You mean the girls who dance are the same girls who swim?
Well, of course, Mike.
Wow, I didn't know that. They look so different with their clothes on.
Never mind. Never mind.
What do you know about
Next
it? You're
week,
gay.
Be sure and stay tuned for a special episode called Mr. Brady Dives into the Pool and Stays There. Oh, I know that, honey. Because if you did, you'd already be in the pool.
Why don't we tell them about tonight's show?
Right. Tonight we have the fantastic Anime Wazelaskas. Anime Wazelaskas. She's a great singer. She won the Harpo Mark Sound-Alike contest.
Tune in next week for a special episode, Bobby Brady Dives into Cement.
And tonight, watch for our real guests. 4 kids who know what's happening because they're the stars of what's happening. Raj, Rerun, Dwayne, and Dee.
Remember the parents as Ernest Thomas, Fred Berry, Haywood Nelson, and Danielle Spencer.
Yeah, rest in peace, Fred Berry. Rerun.
Man who takes animals and turns them into hit records. First Disco Duck, now Disco-Rilla.
Marlon Perkins of music, Rick D.
Plus, the only man in the world who howls at the moon in broad daylight, Rip Taylor.
The Crawford Dancers and Waterfollies.
Not Anime Wazelaskas.
Sorry, Anime. You'll just have to listen to us sing. Say, how do you like that for a music cue?
I never met a music cue I didn't like.
Oh my God, this is just so bad. Who wrote that crap? I'd like to play a little bit of the What's Happening Kids real quick. Danielle Spencer is Dee. She was cute. Like that peanut butter.
Of a man by the shape of his head. It has been said, you can tell.
Hang on, I'm going to jump ahead, guys. Bear with me. I want to play a little bit of the What's Happening guys. I love... Oh, there's Rick Dees. Listen to Rick Dees. Another novelty song he did, like Disco Duck.
My hair was growing wild, I was looking strange. She said I was the one who would be a thriller. How she was searching for the disco
Oh, hell, it is Disco Duck. I can't take it. I just can't do this. I can't do it. I just cannot do it. If I can't find those doggone What's Happening Kids. Jesus, it's so bad. Excuse me, Lord. Where the F are the damn kids? Oh, here we go. I just went past. There we go.
Or Pat Boone.
Oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be so bad. It's just... Here we go.
All the Bradys love Alice. Well, now you can applaud.
Oh, God, no. Sorry, Alice.
I give up. What is it?
A waterfall.
What's a waterfowl?
Something that rolls around on the ground and acts dumb.
It's your turn, Danielle. Who do you want to be?
Can I be head of the network? Sure. Good. You're all canceled.
That's the best line of the thing.
Now, come on, let's get on with it. Okay.
I'm Reverend Ike. You can't lose with the stuff I use.
And I'll be Mary Tyler Moore.
Praise the Lord, brothers and sisters. You too can be loaded if you pray for some bread. Don't mean get some green.
I'll be the $6 million man. You guys took all the good people.
7 cars in every garage.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Save your soul, sinner!
Maybe we ought to call a doctor.
Maybe we ought to call the National Guard.
Oh, that sucks. I cannot even play that. I was hoping it'd be better. I don't even remember watching it, and I've never seen that clip with the What's Happening gang. I just discovered it today, and wow. I only have a couple of them on DVD. I think Shout Factory released 2 episodes of the Brady Bunch Variety Hour, and then after that, there was a show that was also awfully bad, and it was called the Brady Brides. It was a double wedding. Okay. Oh, the other good thing I want to say about the variety show, backing up, is the only positive thing I can say is that Maureen McCormick never looked better. The original Marcia Brady. She looked really, really pretty in that. But the Brady Brides, flash forward from 1976 to February 6th, 1981, only lasted a few episodes where they were married off, the Brady Brides, and the opening sequence is just as bad as the Variety Hour. This song is so terrible. I've got to play it. It's like torture. This is like the worst opening. Oh, listen to this. It's so bad. If I could play it. It was just a terrible show. It only lasted 8 episodes as well. There we go. Listen how stupid this is.
A very special day. A house is too expensive for each couple. The only way to buy what they decide is to share the cost by moving in together. That's the way that they became the Brady Bride. The Brady Bride. The Brady Bride. That's the way they became the Brady Bride.
It sucked. It sucked, just like that stupid theme song. Anyway, the only thing they rebounded with was A Very Brady Christmas, December 18th, 1988. And that got really high ratings. Again, you had one holdout in the cast, and that was the original Cindy Brady. She didn't return. Susan Olsen did not act in A Very Brady Christmas. Jennifer Runyon took over the part as Cindy for that movie. And then it became, in 1990, the Brady 500. It was a short-lived revival show based on the success of A Very Brady Christmas. So you did have times where they brought shows back like that, where it turned out okay. And now another classic one, the Mary Tyler Moore Show. I'm not going to play a clip because we're running out of time, but that excellent ending, very heartfelt. I wasn't a tremendous fan of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, although I do appreciate it. It's certainly a show that was well written and well acted. So in the interest of time, I won't play the clip I was going to play of the group hug, but what a great ensemble cast that was, whether you like the show or not. Man, you had Gavin MacLeod, who just passed away, that we eulogized in the last Nostalgic Podblast. And then Ted Knight, who died in 1986, as Ted Baxter. That was my favorite character in that show. And then Betty White, who's still alive. Knock on wood, I don't even like to say that. Ever since our James Bond Podblast, where I said Sean Connery's still with us, and then like the next week, practically he was gone. So I do not want to be a jinx. Here's another good ending, and I will play a clip of this. Newhart from May 21st, 1990. Now, do you remember the Bob Newhart show? I'm sure you do. And Bill Daly from I Dream of Jeannie was in that as well, playing an airline pilot. And in the last episode, there was a great final scene, and let's listen to a little bit of it from the Newhart finale, one of the better finales and very clever. Daryl, this is my other brother Daryl, and Daryl, and Daryl, and Daryl. So he's in bed. All right, now he wakes up. Here we go. This is very brief. Turns on the light, and it's Suzanne Plachette in bed with him, not Mary Fran, who played his wife in Newhart. This is the actress who played his wife in his previous series. He just turned on the light, and my God, what the hell's going on here?
All right, Bob. What is it?
Well, I was an innkeeper in this crazy little town in Vermont.
I'm happy for you. Good night.
Give me a lucky strike.
Nothing made sense in this place. I mean, the maid was an heiress. Her husband talked in alliteration. The handyman kept missing the point of things. And then there were these 3 woodsmen, but only one of them talked.
That settles it. No more Japanese food before you go to bed.
Racist. That's Asian bashing these days. You can't do that. Kidding. So you get it. That was just a very clever ending to Newhart. And that was a big hit. Lasted 8 seasons. Let's talk about, the audio might not be great on this clip, but Three's Company. It had a horrible ending as well. The final episode aired on ABC September 18th, 1984. It was a 1-hour finale. And the problem is Jack should have wound up with Janet. That would have been a much more satisfying ending than pairing him with a new character, Vicky, who was a airline flight attendant, stewardess, flight attendant, whatever you want to call it, the position. Now, I'm going to play a clip of the last Three's Company. This is bad audio. Bear with it. Sorry.
It's all cleared out. Yeah, we're all ready to go.
Well, I guess this is it.
Well, Mr. Furley, goodbye.
Don't eat too many pineapples. Janet?
Oh, I love you, Mr. Furley.
That husband of yours is one lucky guy.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, what the hell? You're cured. I'm the one that straightened him out, you know. Damn.
Well.
Well.
I better get home to my husband. Oh, my goodness, I can't believe how that sounds.
Oh, I know what you mean, Janet. I can't believe that in a few hours I'm going to be with Vicky.
Well, I have a plane to catch you.
We better go.
Shows the empty, just the couch and no furnishings in the apartment. Wide shot. And who closes the door last and turns out the light? That's how it ended. That was the nurse. That was Priscilla Barnes as the nurse who turned out the light. And it should have been Jack or Janet, in my opinion. That's how Three's Company ended. And it led into a spinoff. Three's a Crowd lasted only 1 season. Oh, I'm going to talk about that one next week. In our show about shows that lasted 1 or 2 seasons that were good and bad. Got a little speech here from Richard Dawson of Family Feud, the very last regular Family Feud he did in March of '85. This is kind of an interesting final speech. Let me play some of this. And of course, it was revived. Here we go.
Were our final
winning family, and they won $5,504, and I'm proud of them. I've had the most incredible luck in my career. I've done lots and lots of jobs, and I've never, ever had a job like Family Feud. I've never dreamed I would ever have a job where so many people could touch me and I could touch them. And there's a great magic about this show that I've never seen on any other show. I want to publicly acknowledge Howard Felsher, who's our executive producer. He was a producer in the beginning of this show, and he helped steer and guide the way that we went. And he and I fall a lot of times, but I tell you that he's important, and I should acknowledge him, because he was the one with me that we said, let anybody come on this show. Anyone that can play this game, no matter what color or creed, no matter if they're in a wheelchair or they have no sight. And we've had everybody on the show, and he was very, very important in that, and I acknowledge and thank him for it. I thank my crew, and I thank my director already. I have the best staff you've ever dreamed of. You can't, but you don't have to dream of them, because I'm going to take them with me. Even if I never work again, they'll just be near me. They are so special and wonderful. ABC, Jackie Smith, Wally Welton, Josie, Albert, they kept us on the air probably a year more than they should have, because we weren't really helping them. You know, our ratings weren't that good, and they were so great. They buried themselves carrying us, and I love them for that.
Here's where
Not that
it
I
gets
wanted
interesting,
to
I
hurt
think.
them, but because I love them.
Like
They
what he
were
says
good
here.
people. There were people I know that got upset that I kissed people. I kissed them for luck and love, that's all. That's what my mother did to me. There were people upset that I would embrace or hug someone of a different color. The first time I ever saw people of any color was when D-Day left from my hometown in England to go and free Europe from the war. And there was every color you could imagine, and I'd
Today's
not
D-Day.
seen that in England. And I asked my mother about it. I said, is there something wrong? She said, God makes people. You understand that, don't you? And I said, yeah. She said, who makes a rainbow? I said, God. She said, I'd never presumed to tell anyone who could make a rainbow what color to make children. And she changed my whole life with that statement. All I can tell you is this has been a very special 9 years of my life. If I never do another thing, I've met the good, sweet people of the world. So I leave you with love, and for the little girl that 9 years ago I first signed to. I guess she's 13 now. I'll think of you every day. God bless all the little children in the world. Thank you.
Richard Dawson, who also passed away not too long ago. He's no longer with us. I don't know if this will play the audio quality. This is an extended version, unaired, of that last episode. I think he says some weird stuff here, too. Not weird, but, you know, interesting. I don't think I can get it to go. Let me see here. Yep, hang on. Bear with me. And we're going to wrap up the show here. Just got a couple minutes.
You were marvelous, and I'm sorry that I made an idiot of myself. But I mean, I did it because I really meant it. And also, I have to tell you something, that there was a little girl named Nicole Kelly. And this is why I'm so upset with myself, because that's why I put this card in my pocket. Kathy, my producer, one day called me and came to the stairs, and she said there's a little girl named Nicole Kelly in Wisconsin. And it was 1973 she was born, and she was in hospital. And the next day was going to be her birthday, and she'd asked if I'd call her, you know. And I said, sure. And then I called her, and we did our last couple of shows, and we went away on summer vacation. And I said to Kathy, it would be nice if we sent her some lollipops. I just meant that, you know, because I wanted them to all to know how marvelous you were. So we sent her lollipops, and we sent her 5 lollipops with black stems. She was born in '73, And she died about a week later in...
Terrible. Anyway, good man, Richard Dawson. So we're going to wrap the show, and usually I would do my one more thing, but there's no freaking time. I'm just going to say that we got a contest going on. We're giving away every episode ever made of Lost in Space. And I'll give you details on our Facebook page, the Nostalgic Podblast. There's no time right now. Thank you for tuning in to this long show. And I hope you have a really, really great week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Nostalgic Podblast. Next week's the 2-year anniversary. We're going to talk about the shows that only lasted 1 or 2 seasons. Thanks for tuning in and putting up with my technical goofs today. Have a great week.